Tuesday, the winning goes on. Nothing but winning. Purdue winning. Pacers winning. Everybody winning, James Boyd. Good morning, Kevin Bowen. How you doing today? And Kylan has decided to come back for a second day in a row. We didn't drive her away. We were all good yesterday, man. It was all good.
Yeah, I mean, the Pacers finally won a game without stressing out the entire city.
Yep.
So that was a plus. Tyrese Haliburton, 11 straight double-double, and the Pacers keep stacking wins.
Great stuff, KB, last night. It was nice. You called it yesterday. They needed just a win where they just cruise down the stretch, have the game in hand, take it to the end, and don't have to worry it.
Yeah, somewhere looking down, I think Slick Leonard uttered his most famous phrase. Well, I guess Boom Baby's most famous phrase, but turn out the lights. The party is over. He hasn't sung that in a while watching his Pacers, but he certainly could sing it last night. Yeah, very impressive. Led throughout, as James said. Haliburton, point god. Can I go there? GAWD, maybe.
High praise.
For Tyrese Haliburton. Obi Toppin needs to play the Timberwolves seemingly every night. And Rick Carlisle will join us coming up here at 8 o'clock. That's 5 in a row. That's 8 in a row at home. And, boy, they're knocking on the 3-seed door. I don't really know if they want the 3-seed, to be totally honest, but they are knocking on that door. And two up, I believe, on Milwaukee.
Bucks
with
lost
the Bucks losing late
yeah.
last night with that Devin Booker shot. So 11 to go for the Pacers. And, yes, I would say probably their best 48-minute effort maybe since the start of the month.
James, speaking of 11 in assists, 1 turnover. Kevin kind of touched on it, but it just continues. This isn't like a 1 or 2 off game. Every night it's double-digit assists and 1, maybe on the outside, 2 turnovers. That's it.
Yeah, we'll get into it. I know we probably have some sound from Tyrese last night talking about his assist-to-turnover ratio, and I believe I asked him about it, and someone else did as well. But just I think his spatial awareness is next level, and not to sound like a nerd, but you really can't teach how he sees the game. And so I'm curious to talk to Rick this morning of just how he's maybe – shaped or reshaped how he coaches the game because he's such a unique player. Like, if you watch Tyrese play, it's not like he plays super cautious.
No, he's not Gardner Minshew.
Right.
He's, he's Patrick Mahomes. He's Josh Allen. Yeah, he takes chances.
But he doesn't turn it over,
right.
which is so crazy. He jumps in the air almost
yeah.
every pass, which you teach every kid in America. When Max Bowen is playing basketball, every coach is going to tell him, don't jump in the air to pass.
He breaks all the point guard rules.
And it works. It works.
Yeah, he is he's a crazy talent. And, yeah, I mean, that's, I think, what is so uber impressive about him is, again, he's not this conservative point guard that is, only throwing two-handed chest passes and, really nice, making sure the thumbs are out
right
as he's throwing the bounce pass. So he was great last night. Again, I think, there's a moment there, maybe late second quarter. I'm like, oh, boy, is he grabbing the back? He kind of fell to the ground. He came out in the third quarter. Boom, hit 3 after 3 after 3. Toppin looked like Steph Curry again. And they certainly, and Rick said this after the game, I think they did catch a break with Anthony Edwards. That was quite the wrap he had on the old right thumb. And
yeah, 1 for 11 on threes, I believe he was.
Clanking threes over there. So, again, really nice win last night for the Pacers. They will get the reeling Lakers. That will be national TV tomorrow. Back-to-back, 7:30 tomorrow, and then in the nation's capital against the lowly Wizards on Thursday.
Don't let down. Keep that thing rolling. There's an opportunity, and I agree with you, Kev. I don't know if they want the 3 seed, but they'll certainly take home court advantage if they can get it one way or the other. They win over the T-Wolves 119-103 last night. Also, women's college basketball kind of had the college stage to themselves, obviously, and not a happy story at the very end, JB, at all for USC and Juju Watkins.
Yeah, saw her go down, clutching her knee, and I believe it was Shams Charania reported early this morning, that she tore her right ACL. So she's done for the year, and obviously with her tearing it so late in this season, she's probably not going to be ready for the start of next season. What does that mean for her and her future? And obviously we've seen players go through this. I know Paige Becker's had some injuries throughout college. She's healthy now. So it's not like it's the end-all, be-all of her career. It's just that what was supposed to be a championship-level team at USC probably isn't one, or actually I know it isn't one without Juju Watkins because she's the best player in the country, arguably. So tough break for her, tough break for the sport because I think men and women really enjoyed watching her play and the bun, get it done. So, I feel for her because, again, she's such an exciting player.
Yeah, this is the equivalent of Cooper Flagg, like tearing his ACL on the men's side of it. Now, Juju Watkins would have to go back to USC no matter what,
right,
just based off eligibility from a WNBA standpoint.
Only a sophomore.
But, man, it just – and I think there are some stats to back this up, but, from a women's standpoint, you just see the torn ACLs so often.
Yeah.
I mean, Paige Beckers, as James pointed out. I mean, Olivia Miles. I mean, we're talking about the three best players, arguably, in women's basketball, college-wise, have all torn their ACLs, which is just kind of wild. And none of them are yet.
I think it was Cameron Brink last year, too,
WNBA,
wasn't it?
I mean, saw Cameron Brink early in her WNBA career. So, just an awful scene. I mean, her carried off the floor, and you saw Lindsey Gottlieb's emotion. It was very early in their win last night over Mississippi State there. So, just horrible on that front for certainly the best player in women's college game.
I know this, too. As my kids get closer and closer to college age, 15 and 17, anytime you see anybody's kid in pain on the floor, it kind of gets you in the back of the throat a little bit there, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've never had a major injury. I mean, the worst thing I ever had in high school was breaking a finger, which I wouldn't recommend. I broke my index finger and my middle finger on my right hand, so the handwriting was awful for a while. It was already bad, but it was worse then.
Gosh, I should use that excuse. My handwriting's so freaking bad.
No, I mean,
I broke my middle finger when I was a kid, and it just doesn't work right.
Yeah,
I think I broke
seriously.
all 10 of them, honestly.
Is that what happened?
Without my
Man,
handwriting
KB, my
is-
dad told me he never broke a finger, but if you look at his hands, I'm like, we're doing better now, maybe as a family, and we have insurance to go to
the
doctor.
older generation's got some fingers that are pointed all
And he's
different
just like,
directions.
I never broke a
The
finger,
Torrey
and the
Holt-
fingers are pointing different ways.
The Torrey
but-
Holt hand?
Something
yeah,
like that.
exactly. But getting back to Juju, I mean, it's tough. Obviously, as a parent, as a fan of the game, as an athlete, or even just a human being, you can feel for her because, I mean, similar to how I see Caitlin, they represent the game in so many great ways where I can never really criticize what they've done. Like, I can't look at something in Caitlin's career and say, oh, this is where she had this misstep. She's a great ambassador for the game, and same for Juju. I mean, I think Juju is so laid back and so chill, and I always joke about this. There's a reason why I guess God gives certain talent to certain people, because if I was as good as her, I would not be as humble ever. She's that good of a player, and I'm sure she'll bounce back and still be, assuming she gets back healthy, the projected number 1 pick 2 years from now.
All right, we'll be talking a lot about college basketball as Purdue gets ready for the Sweet 16 and Indianapolis gets ready for the Sweet 16. We're all looking forward to that, and I think most of us will be over there Friday and Sunday, Kev. So let's get to the second game for Purdue. Let's do it.
You got the
Let's have
kind of money,
something to
KB?
talk about next. No, we're good. We're in.
Oh,
How about you?
Oh, okay.
The Athletic taking care of you?
Hey, I don't need to.
I think
to go
James
over there.
Boyd's going to be in sunny Florida. He's going to be getting the last
Yes,
laugh.
I think he's going to be okay. I was teasing him. I was wondering about handwriting, though. Colin, you strike me as the person that has, like, perfect handwriting. Is that true?
Nah,
Is it close?
I'm calling Cap.
Is it
Hey,
close? Whoa.
JB.
I'm just saying.
Aggressive.
You're the one to
Aggressive.
be
She
talking.
can't be driving at 10 years old and have good handwriting. At some point, God's got to be like, hey, this is too much for one person.
Can't fill the full bucket. Well, it's not the best. I never had the pretty cursive, bubbly handwriting that girls
They don't
typically
teach
do.
that anymore, though, do they?
No, I thankfully got cursive in my teaching, in my education.
Yeah.
But
You're
it's
being humble
legible.
over
It's
there,
okay,
Kyle.
yeah. That tells me everything I need to
Appreciate
know
you.
right there, James.
People
You
think my
already-
manuscript is cursive, so it's never a good sign.
How long we been working on that manuscript?
Yeah, we have.
All
Yeah,
right.
like yesterday, I have to fill out like a summer care form for my children. I'm like, do I really have to do this with pen and paper? I'm like, there's no chance they're gonna be able to read all this handwriting that I'm trying to produce here. But
Coming up in a
nonetheless.
moment, we'll try to read the handwriting that's on the NBA wall for the Pacers and their road ahead. Also, today we'll talk to Rick Carlisle about this nice little win streak they've got going on here. That comes your way at 8 o'clock. And we'll also check out what the latest is for the Colts in free agency with guys coming and going. It's all straight ahead. It's the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Excuse me. You mentioned 11 games remaining, and now they have a 2-game advantage on the Milwaukee Bucks. Bucks still have a heavy road schedule. Pacers still have a heavier home schedule. 4 look pretty good right now, that 4 seed.
Should we do a little morning check down action here?
Yeah, let's try that. Kyler, what's going on?
Cue it up here. Indeed, last night finally could kick the feet up in that fourth quarter. James Boyd, I did think when Minnesota had that big run to start the fourth, I'm like, oh boy, here we go again. But the Pacers had built a lead that was really insurmountable. 119-103 the final. 8 straight home wins and 5 straight wins in general. And Obi Toppin, there's something about seeing those T-Wolves, right?
Yeah, I believe he's shooting something crazy, like 12 of 18 from 3 in his last 2 games against them. And he said it after the game. You know, Steph Curry kind of changed the game. He had to expand his game, obviously, to have a bigger role in the NBA. But to shoot that well, it's always a positive because you know what he brings as far as his athleticism, some of the defensive stuff as well, and transition baskets. But the 3-ball, I mean, that changes a lot of things for this team.
And again, I don't remember him doing it at this volume at Dayton even. I mean, it's pretty impressive. I mean, he's a great player. Dayton Hell, he's a National Player of the Year, but very impressive what Obi Toppin continues to grow to his game. And, of course, you cannot take Tyrese Haliburton for granted. 11 assists, 1 turnover last night. And I very much appreciated the analogy Tyrese threw out to being a point guard.
I've always been told being the point guard of a team is like being the mom. Like, your job is to make sure everybody's happy. You know, like, that's kind of how I've been raised and taught how to play the position. And just trying to get guys involved, get guys the ball in the right position. And, yeah, I mean, I got LASIK after my rookie year. I don't know if that helped. I got good vision, though. It's like 2010. You guys would be impressed. Our eye doctor is always impressed when I go in before the season. But, yeah, I don't know. Just trying to play the right way, take care of the ball. I hate turning the ball over, as so do a lot of point guards. But, you know, I'm just trying to play the right way. And, you know, I think that's just how I play basketball.
I just love that he mentions, like, he goes to the eye doctor every year like a little kid. It's like, yeah, I go to the eye doctor, they check me. 2010 vision, I never heard of that. I was like, it must be very good. I wear contacts, so I cannot relate to
someone that wears glasses and contacts, I cannot relate whatsoever.
But, yeah, he made a joke about it, but I also think that he's serious when it comes to setting the table for his teammates, making them feel comfortable. I thought last night was one of the better games that he had, with kind of picking his spots himself to call his own number, because when he got going, it wasn't like he was necessarily looking for other guys. It was like, let me go put the ball in the basket because I'm feeling it. So that version of Tyrese Haliburton, I believe, is the best one.
Yeah, they really put the T-Wolves away in the third quarter there, and Haliburton hit, I think, 3. One of them was overturned. He had that deep step back, and big night for the Pacers. Pretty balanced all in all. Again, back-to-back coming up. Lakers national TV tomorrow night. The Lakers have lost 3 in a row, and frankly, they're getting run off the floor in many of these losses.
Doesn't hurt anybody's heart, that's for sure. Not around here. Bucks also lost to the Suns 108-106 last night. That means the Pacers are 2 games in front of Milwaukee for the 4th and final home court advantage of the first round if they can hold on through these next 11 games. JB, we also talked about Juju Watkins on the court last night for USC, going down with an ACL. And as Kevin was describing it off air a minute ago, almost nondescript, and we see that with women in ACLs a lot these days.
Yeah, like I said, I was on Johns Hopkins Medicine reading during the break, and it says that women's knees, I guess, don't have as much stability as men's knees. More looseness and range of motion is what they have listed on here, is one of the reasons why it's higher in women's athletes and men athletes. But just a tough break for Juju Watkins, hoping that she has a speedy recovery. I'm sure she'll probably go get surgery. Not sure. I know she will, because you have to get it. But you know, I'm hoping this time next year we'll be talking about the comeback story rather than her ending what was a great season and a championship level team, ending their run. So just tough. And shout out to the rest of the team, though, for stepping up and continue to play well and putting away Mississippi State.
Not bad at all. Also in women's basketball last night, NCAA tournament continues. Thought this was interesting, KB. UConn with a big win over South Dakota State. You don't flinch at that, 91-57. We've seen it. After the game, I was listening to Gino Auriemma, and he was talking about the fact this is the first time in 3 or 4 years he's had, as he calls them, all my guys healthy. And he's talking like 8, 9 deep. He goes, first time I've gone into the tournament in several years where I feel like I've got everything ready to go. I don't have to worry about stuff.
He's also dealt with big injuries to his star players in recent years. I think that's something that, honestly, Kelvin Sampson has said as well on the men's side. You know, Houston has had injuries that have ended their seasons, contributed, I think, to ending their seasons in the Sweet 16 each of the last 2 years. Right now, they don't have that entering Friday night, so I think that's a reason why, part of why, Houston certainly, again, they've shot the ball much better than they typically do, and why the challenge will be so big for Purdue coming up on Friday night.
NFL free agency continues. Just curious, I saw Julian Blackmon's name heavily linked to the Carolina Panthers yesterday. KB, any updates on Colts players either leaving or maybe new guys coming
It's been a quiet,
to
probably
fortify everything, right?
10 days at this point.
Yeah.
Really nothing from a Colts standpoint there. So, yes, I think writing's on the wall. Of course, Julian Blackmon will be playing somewhere else here in 2025. Remember, last year he didn't sign until April back with the Colts. He was very upset about the safety market. I think the safety market has been a little bit more robust this offseason, but hasn't necessarily benefited him just yet. We'll continue to see Mo Alley Cox and EJ Speed, where those two free agencies play out. But as James Boyd heads down to the owners' meetings coming up here in a few days, things have been pretty quiet on the Colts front. And really, I would say quiet on the NFL front. I guess maybe a Trey Hendrickson domino still to fall.
Or Aaron Rodgers,
yeah,
something
obviously,
like
the Aaron
that.
Rodgers saga continues, but that's really it.
I'll take it. I mean, the first few days were pretty busy, a lot busier than normal for the Colts. And so I will certainly tip my cap to them for kind of changing their philosophy a bit when it comes to their approach. Chris Ballard spending some money, Jim Irsay spending some money in free agency. We'll see if it pays off. But I'm looking forward to getting down to the owners' meetings. Hopefully we get a chance to talk to Mr. Irsay. If not, Chris Ballard will be there. Shane Steichen will be there like last year. And there'll be plenty of questions to ask because I know you all will have them. And I'll probably ask Twitter, what should I ask? And there's always like 5 questions that are just completely inappropriate that I can't ask. But there's usually like 10 that are like legit good questions that the fan base is curious about that I might pass along.
That's a good
Inappropriate
ratio.
and Twitter go hand in hand, right?
I mean,
But that's a good ratio, 50-50.
Yeah, I usually say, hey, can you say, a legitimate question, and someone's like, why do you still have a job? And it's like, all right, well, I can't really ask that for the 10th time. So I will say, though, if Irsay is available, that is a question all of us will ask, like, why the 9th season for Chris Ballard and what's the vision for going forward?
Certainly. Portal news out of Bloomington, I think not a huge surprise, but many of them continue to enter the portal. Mackenzie Mbako, Ja'Kai Newton, both yesterday. So Mbako and now Malik Renew, both in the portal here, each with eligibility left. I did see Mbako's statement mention he will test a little bit of the NBA waters and is retaining his eligibility. Going to keep an eye on developments within the Indiana program. So obviously we'll see how all of that plays out. I think with Mbako, you were left wanting more. He had the great game at Purdue earlier this year, and then he gets benched in the second Purdue game. It's just you can see the 5-star talent at times, mostly on the offensive end of the floor. But it will be a very, very new-look roster for Darren DeVries down there in Bloomington.
Sounds like everything is on the table down there for Mbako. I don't know. He didn't close the door on coming back, right? But it doesn't sound like he's
I think
going
anybody
to.
that enters the portal, they're pretty much telling you what they are doing.
Yeah, and also you got to look at the caliber of player and then what's going on with the program. Like, it takes 2 to tango. Does Darren DeVries
And he
want
flirted
him?
with it last year, too, if I'm not mistaken, testing the NBA waters there. So unless I've got it wrong, I want to say the only guys left that haven't announced one way or the other is Kanan Carlisle, Miles Rice, Trenton Sisley, the 5-star freshman, remains committed, and that might be it. Maybe Bryson Tucker. There's like 4 dudes left. So, again, this is, and to be expected, this is kind of what you see with all these new coaches coming into respective programs. So, a lot of work for Darren DeVries in the portal front.
He's been there before, though, because I want to say last year they only returned like 1 player.
At West Virginia.
Yeah, and they ended up
And
stacking
they
10
went
more
from
wins.
9 wins to 19.
Yeah, so he's been through this before.
All right. We'll continue to take a look at the Colts, the Indiana Hoosiers, and how they restack and retool. Purdue still alive and getting ready to play at Lucas Oil this weekend. It's all to come right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Happy Tuesday. Good morning. If you're on your way to work, thanks so much for tuning us in. However you might do that, whether it's on the Fan app, 107.5 The Fan. You can get the app. You can listen online. You can ask your smart speaker, hey Siri, can you please play 107.5 The Fan? It'll pop up. Or you can just listen to us at either 93.5 FM or 107.5 FM. Tons of ways to get us, JB.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Whatever you got to do to listen to us, see this beautiful face in the morning where I get to get the crust out of my eye before I get here.
The eye boogers.
Good there you go.
I've told you guys the Siri story before with my wife and my father-in-law, correct?
I have not heard this
I've
story.
not heard this.
The first look, the day of your wedding, my father-in-law, very emotional, seeing his daughter, his oldest daughter, get married, and all of a sudden they're, walking to embrace and a hug, and next thing you know, his cell phone goes off in his pocket, and Siri has chimed in. I'm like, you do look beautiful. I'm like, there's no more millennial moment, I feel like, than that. I can't tell you how many times all of a sudden I'm like, what is that voice? And I'm like, oh, wait, somehow Siri's been ignited in our household.
AI just telling the truth.
They're everywhere.
Just telling the truth.
I guarantee you're setting off some right now.
1,000%.
There we go.
I know. I'm shocked it hasn't started up.
I was over at the Fieldhouse earlier yesterday before the Pacers game, and they had all the high school coaches and many of the players available to talk to for the upcoming state championships this Saturday night coming up at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. I had the opportunity to sit down with Sherrod Wilkerson from Jeffersonville and Garrett Weiniger from Fishers. They're going to be doing the 4A game, and I'll be doing that on the Champions Network. So I'm looking forward to that. But, man,
you're on the call?
Yeah.
Let's go.
So much
You just
fun.
dropped that casually.
Yeah,
and
come on now.
All right.
That was a bit ho-hum.
Well, yeah, no, I'm very excited. They had called me a week or two ago and said, hey, do you want to do it? And I said, sure. It's been a minute since I did it every day, but a lot of people don't realize the first, 12, 15 years of my career, that was my day job, was doing play-by-play, whether it was for the old Western Athletic Conference, college football and basketball.
Who are you calling it with?
Men and women. Rob Moorhead's going to be on the call.
Nice.
Coach Smith's going to be on the call. So I'm looking forward to.
Love me some Pete Smith.
It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to it. But I was going to say, Sherrod Wilkerson and Garrett Weiniger, I could sit and talk to those guys all day long. And the theme I get from both of them, genuinely, when you spend time with them, they're great basketball coaches, but even their players were telling me every day is like a lesson in life for us. And Coach Wilkerson was talking to me about the fact that the first 30 minutes of their practice is all about life lessons and today and overcoming things and taking care of business and doing stuff. I'm like, that's why we want our kids to go play for certain coaches, right?
Yeah.
For that kind of approach.
Really cool what he's doing back at his alma mater. Obviously, former IU player. I actually went to IU with Garrett Weiniger, same age as me, and what he's done at Fishers is just damn impressive there. So, again, I think it's a great slate of games. The university story in 2A is pretty remarkable. They weren't even receiving votes in the poll heading into the tournament, and now here they are in the 2A state title. So very, very fun week of hoops coming up in our states, and it started last night with a big win for the Pacers.
Over at the Fieldhouse, and you were there afterwards. Can I just say one thing before we talk about what you heard in the locker room after? I need to get that coat that Obi Toppin is rocking. That thing is serious.
You need to rock that courtside on Saturday night.
That would be the only – nothing can make me cool at this point in time, but I might feel cool in that coat.
I mean, if you got the same budget as Obi Toppin, go for it. Because every time I see something that's nice, I'm like, oh, man, I know that probably costs a pretty penny. But he can wear that kind of coat when he shoots like that. I believe another 6 threes last night. 6 of 9, I believe. 7 of 10 overall from the floor. He is shooting that thing, and he's playing really well. I mean, you really can't ask for a better version of Obi Toppin than as you've seen the last week or so. And he said he's playing confident, and obviously you can see that confidence exude in the shooting and also just the overall team effort. And again, they finally won a game without stressing themselves out at the end or fumbling a lead. I thought that there was a little bit of chaos there to start the fourth quarter. I believe the Timberwolves started like a 9-0 run. I was like, oh, here we go again. But they took back control of the game and finished strong. And so, what is that, 5 straight for them? 8 straight at home, KB? I mean, these wins, as ugly as they were at least a couple weeks ago or the last week or so, I know last night was a really good win overall. They all count the same, and they need them all.
Yeah, I think you go back to maybe the Bucks game, obviously the game winner from Haliburton, is the cherry on top. Maybe that Rockets game. Remember when they beat the Rockets kind of at the start of the month?
Yeah.
Because I know Minnesota's fighting for a playoff spot, but I still think they're a really quality opponent. And, you probably caught a break with Edwards and the injury, but still, I thought Nembhard did a nice job of just not letting him live at the rim, because he can do that with his athleticism. I mean, frankly, it's unlike really anybody in the league, his size and his speed and his ability to finish at the rim. I thought when Minnesota went on that little run to start the fourth quarter, I thought that was just like PTSD chaos. Like for any other game throughout the season, you wouldn't overreact to that.
Yeah.
But because the Pacers have dealt with what they have the last couple of weeks, I felt like all of a sudden the uneasiness really rise. When in reality you were still up, what? I mean, it seemed like at least 12, 15.
I was going to say double digits easy.
Yeah, and it never, got real serious after that. So the third quarter, I thought that's when you punched them, and really that was a knockout blow. I mean, coming out of that third quarter, what you did out of halftime was huge. Haliburton started it, and then like James said, Obi came in off the bench. So 42-29 on the year for the Pacers. Again, a reminder, they will be on national TV. So for those that don't get FanDuel, ESPN tomorrow, 7:30 with the Lakers and Luka and LeBron, who they did not see last time out there. Remember, Austin Reeves went off, and the Lakers really throttled the Pacers, one of the worst performances of the season for Indiana. Will look much different tomorrow, and the Lakers are struggling. 3-7, lost 3 in a row. 3-7 their last 10. They've lost 3 in a row. And they are not even really competitive in a lot of these games.
As I mentioned a little while ago, everybody in Indianapolis is weeping for the Lakers right now, I'm sure.
No, I mean, these people, rightfully so, they don't like LeBron, and I wouldn't like him either if every year it seems like when we get to the playoffs, at least during the Heat years, they were the ones knocking you out. Oladipo years knocking them out. So all of that, I think, adds to the competitive fire. And, again, you're playing for playoff positioning. So, in a sense, it feels like a playoff game. I expect it to feel pretty packed and, animated with the crowd. And I'm sure there's going to be some Lakers fans in Indianapolis, which is so weird, if you're not from L.A. in general. But, the Pacers don't care about that. Their plan is to smack them again like they've been getting smacked by other teams around the league.
A couple of scheduling notes for the Pacers. They have now – this is his active 5-game winning streak. It's their third 5-game winning streak of the year. They had another one of 4 games. So they've been able to put winning streaks together, and they've only got 2 more back-to-backs. Kevin, you talked earlier about the Lakers and then going to Washington the next night. Last one will be home back-to-back games on April 10th and 11th. They'll take on Cleveland and then Orlando right after that. And
we'll
you
see
look
about
at the schedule,
Haliburton.
it looks good.
Yeah, we'll see about Haliburton on the back-to-back. That's probably a question I have for Wednesday, Thursday, if he indeed is going to give it a go. In these back-to-backs. I think that'll be something to keep an eye on. Again, Rick Carlisle going to join us coming up at 8 o'clock. I don't know how – I felt like it was a pretty big topic yesterday kind of in the sports world, and I thought Matt Painter had some interesting comments over the weekend. You had the college basketball portal open up yesterday with 16 teams still alive in the tournament. Actually, Michigan had one of their players, Justin Pippen, son of Scotty, enter the portal. Now, Justin Pippen isn't a top 6 or 7 guy, but he has played for them this season. Like
Hasn't played a lot lately.
No, but he's probably, if they go 10 deep, he's getting in the game. So it's not like this is some walk-on that it never sees minutes. And Michigan obviously is still alive. And guys, think back to the college football playoff. Remember when Penn State's backup quarterback went into the portal during their playoff run? It's a very, very confusing time, I think, for a lot of these coaches. And I thought Matt Painter addressed it in a pretty honest manner. Typically, that's what Matt Painter, how he operates. But this was after Purdue's win over McNeese. And I hope the audio quality is good enough that you can hear it. But Matt Painter, I think, acknowledges the difficult nature that some of these staffs are dealing with this week with the portal. And also, maybe a little bit more activity from Purdue when it comes to the portal.
I was the guy on the committee, whatever the heck you want to call it, subgroup, that changed the rule to get the date pushed up because it affects 16 people that are now in the Sweet 16. There's a lot of schools that are done. So our date was so far back at May 15th that now people don't realize. You say, well, May 15th is not bad. Well, that's the cutoff for the portal. And it was like May 8th or May 1st or whatever it was. And so they kept wanting to push it back because now kids were making visits in late May, early June, late June. And now it was overlapping with the next year's recruitment. And so now we push it back, but it's right. If you make the Sweet 16, here it is for you. Now, we haven't spent a lot of time in the portal, and we're going to here. So it is different, but that's what a majority of the coaches wanted. They wanted it pushed back, so hopefully they can get their recruitment done before the summer starts, and they can get a little bit of a break there for 2 weeks before summer school starts and before the next year's high school recruiting. Because the last 2 weekends in high school recruiting, like there'd be coaches you wouldn't see. You're like, where are you? So I'm still trying to sign players for next year. And so, like, we're trying our best to do it. There's nothing perfect because it's not perfect the way it is. I believe it's better than the way it is, but it's still, for the people that are playing in the Crown and people playing in the NIT and people playing in the NCAA and the CBI and the CIT, for those teams right there, now you got, double duty. But that's part of it, man. Adjust to it. You just got to be on the phone. You got to do your job, but you also got to keep your focus, because this is the most important stuff. You work like hell to be in this position, and now here you are. You want to play well in the Sweet 16.
What do you think? Changes? Leave it? You good with it? You make millions of dollars? Handle it? You can juggle two things at once?
Yeah, I see some of his frustration, though, because it's like, okay, how do you go about doing it the best way? And I think when you're recruiting players, you're trying to, in a sense, give your best effort to them. And it's hard to do that, obviously, if you're trying to focus on so many different things. So I hear what he's saying, but, I mean, I'm always going to be team, you get paid a lot of money, so just figure it out. But I think the changes that they've made make sense, and so I could see where he's coming from.
What if we move to 1 week?
Yeah, I think why
One
not?
more week, get it to the Final Four.
Why
that
not?
knocks another 12 teams out of it. It just seems awkward and a tad unnecessary. And if you're the I don't. Matt Painter didn't really address it there. Now, again, he did mention, I think, a little bit there of like, we are going to be active. I'll be curious to see how Purdue handles the portal because, they only lose Caleb first. Now, again, they could have some portal deficiencies, of course, like any of these teams could have. So I do think that is kind of a little bit of a side plot to this. But I'm also looking at some of these guys from just a pure player standpoint. If you're the 8th or 9th guy on one of these Sweet 16 teams right now, and you're looking at the freshman class coming in next year, you're thinking to yourself, it's an arms race. That's what the Penn State backup quarterback did last year. He thought to himself, I've got to get in the portal because I know that money on the table is not going to be just there when our season gets over.
Yeah, that ain't your spot. I mean, you probably want to
Exactly.
get somewhere
And Penn
sooner.
State did what? They beat SMU, and then they beat Boise State, and they almost beat Notre Dame. I mean, they could have been playing all the way to the national title game. So I just hated that, like, Monday of Sweet 16 week, it seemed like the portal dominated so much of the headlines yesterday from it. And I would like to see it feels like a Texas highway right now. And I'd like to see it be a little bit more 465 like in Indianapolis where, obviously, yeah, you're going to have
guardrails.
just a little bit. I'm again, name, image, likeness. It's not that. It's free agency.
Mm-hmm.
So I think acknowledging that, but also creating a little bit of guardrails so March still has the feel to it that it should deserve. Like Michigan's bench shouldn't be looking right and left to each other on Thursday night as they're getting ready for this Sweet 16 and be like, oh man, I forgot Justin usually sits next to me. That's just weird because in basketball, it's a lot smaller rosters. And I feel like that could have a bit of an impact on things.
You also have I don't know what his personality mix with the rest of the team is, but that has a dynamic in things too, especially with young people, James. But why they don't, honest to goodness, I hear all these dates and this time and pushing back and whatever. I don't care about the coaches. If they only have 3 weeks to figure out what they want to do in the transfer portal, and that's what they'll have. All these players have been thinking about it for weeks and weeks. Coaches, you don't think that they've been scouting other teams, thinking about potential guys that go into the portal already? They don't need all this time that they want, and they can get it done before summer, and they can get it done before they start going to get the next class.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I mean, I could look at it twofold. Like, yeah, we can get it done, but can we get it done well? Is it in the best interest of the player and our program? The argument there could be like, look, for the player, that's the risk that you take when you go into the portal and you're trying to get paid, and so, and then from the coach standpoint, it's like, well, we paid a bunch of assistants. There's always 10 million assistants on every coaching staff now, so I guess one of them keeps up with it. But I understand the frustration of it. I think what you suggested, KB, might be a good point. But even then, is it ever enough? We're probably gonna look up and say, well, it should just be after the tournament. Then I don't know.
How about a 3-week window, a 4-week window from April 5th to May 5th?
Yes.
Let's be honest; these guys aren't transferring and going to school at their new spot.
They're not going to study school.
It's not. I mean, the semester is almost over. I mean, you only have like a month and a week left of the semester, so it's not like if Justin Pippen, for example, from Michigan, if he transfers to Indiana, it's not like he's going and taking classes at Indiana. You have this a little bit with college football. When you transfer as a semester, yeah, maybe you're trying to enroll at the start of the semester. I'm probably putting way too much credit on school, honestly, but you don't have that issue right now. So to me, I think from a player standpoint, from a coach standpoint, you get through the Final Four. Whatever, April 5th to April 25th, April 5th to May 5th. You're not running into any windows there. It's a quiet time for high school recruiting when you think about it as well. I think that's where the transfer portal window should change. And, it's probably only a matter of time before even some of these bigger name guys that, not Justin Pippen. Like, what if it was, Purdue's 7th or 8th guy? All of a sudden, that becomes more of a storyline. I mean, Penn State is one injury away from needing that backup quarterback in the college football playoff. It's just kind of wild to me.
Well, y'all should have played me and paid me, okay?
Well, judging how he threw that ball to Christian Gray for Notre Dame, maybe they should have.
It's the Fan Morning Show, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. James Boyd, Kevin Bowen. I'm Jeff Rickard. Kylan Talley is in with us today as well. Talked about the Pacers playing last night and a couple of days off to just regroup, relax. You don't have the long trip to the arena this coming week for Purdue. They seem to be in a pretty good spot right now.
They are, and they're going to go up against a really great team in Houston. I believe the best three-point shooting team in the country. They're a better version of what they've been the last few years, and the last few years they've been the number one seed as well. So it'll be a tall task for them, and I think Braden Smith, it starts with him. It starts with their leader. He can't have 8 turnovers against his team and expect to win this game. And so I think you look at the bright side. Talked to Rob Blackman yesterday, and he was telling us they haven't played their best basketball. Braden Smith hasn't looked like a first-team All-American, and they've won both games so far in the tournament by double digits. And so now, you've gotten through to the Sweet 16. We need the Big Ten Player of the Year to show up and to lead us, and we'll see how the rest of the group responds as well. Because I do think that the bench has played pretty well, and I like what Miles Colvin in particular has given them, KB. And I think his athleticism on the glass and the three-point shooting could be huge in a game like this.
Yeah, along with Heidi. I mean, especially. I mean, teams just aren't guarding Caleb first. You really, can't play him too much, I think, on the offensive end of the floor. Heidi and Colvin, huge. And you know what? Hat tip to Trey Kaufman-Renn. I thought at the start of the season, if Kaufman-Renn could give you like 14 and 8, night in and night out, you'd sign up for that. And they lost their Zach Edey backup. I think people forget that. Like Daniel Jacobson was supposed to come in and be an immediate freshman. I would say an impact guy with what he did
defensively.
What he did with Team USA, even what he did in the first game. You don't overreact too much, but for Kaufman-Renn to give you the consistent numbers he has been quite impressive. Now, again, I don't think he's finishing through High Point and McNeese guys on Friday night. That's going to be different. I know Houston isn't necessarily 6'11", 7 foot across the line, but
they are physical.
They are uber physical, and the balance of the foul trouble certainly will be one to watch. Do you guys want an update on the poll?
Oh, from yesterday, yes. The poll was...
Kylan wants an update on the poll. She just looked at me and gave me the fiercest fist pump.
We have
We're coming for you, JB.
Under an hour left on the poll here, approaching 1,900 votes. IU fans, who you cheering for Friday night? And boy, I feel like this is the 2000 election here. We might need a recount in the state of Florida here. I don't know which one's...
Do we have a dangling Chad?
I don't know which one's Gore and which one's Bush here, but nonetheless, IU fans, who you cheering for Friday nights at 50.5% of the vote. Boy, I love Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
I missed that.
50.5% of the vote. It is indeed Kelvin Sampson.
Wow.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that.
49.5% takes Purdue.
Man, anybody saying that they would cheer for Purdue over Kelvin Sampson
cheer
is
for
insane.
Purdue if you're an IU fan.
Man, y'all some fake fans. I'm about to start judging the fan base.
Gator
again.
tweets in here. There's a lot of good people in the Purdue program. A lot of respect for him. Can't say that about Kelvin. Tom, as a lifelong IU fan, only an idiot loser would not root against the school from the state of Indiana whose roster's full of kids from the state of Indiana.
See, I feel like I just have there must be haters voting in this thing just to skew this to irritate me, because there's no way you can fathom cheering for the team that has been better than you for the last 10, 15 years. No way. In the same state, taking your players.
Does that tell you just how
Man.
Are they taking your players, or are they just identifying players?
They're identifying and they're getting
Fair
them.
enough. Fair enough.
But does that tell you just how the sour taste that IU fans have for Kelvin
the venom.
Sampson, the way that he left the program?
It's not sour. It's hatred. It's venom.
Like I said, current hatred outweighs old hatred.
But that's almost 20 years old, Kev.
I think what you're hearing from, and I'm sure there might be a Purdue fan or two voting in this poll.
A few.
Purdue doesn't cheat. 4 of their 5 starters from the state of Indiana, and they didn't put your program in hell for seemingly 18 years like Kelvin Sampson has. Now the big question, and unfortunately we won't have a show between Friday and Sunday, but for some reason, if we got a Purdue-Kentucky Elite Eight, what would that poll look like? IU fans, who you rooting for, Purdue or Kentucky to go to the Final Four?
This is not a good
that's
region.
a better question.
This is not a good region for Indiana.
I think the IU.
Let Kylan weigh in here. You're from close to the Kentucky border or whatever.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think
right
the
on
IU
border.
hatred towards Kentucky is stronger.
Can you weigh in? Do you think it's stronger for Kentucky than Purdue?
I think the IU Purdue rivalry is too strong for that.
Okay.
I personally have Kentucky going further in my bracket, so personally,
see.
spoiler up, but
I think that poll would be Kentucky, or excuse me, they would rather have Purdue. But there is a little bit of last year IU fans maybe had, and again, this is not probably in the majority, maybe had an ounce of empathy for Purdue of all right, whatever, they're gonna make a little bit of a run, whoop-de-doo, and now they're sick and tired of it.
I don't know. I would think that the true IU fan would root for Houston to beat Purdue and then probably Tennessee to beat Kentucky,
of course,
and then Tennessee to beat Kelvin Sampson.
They're singing Rocky Top on
That's what they
Kirkland
wanna
right
do
now is what
over
they're
there.
doing. Yeah, let's be honest here.
They all want Tennessee to win that.
But I
region.
like the question from KB though, because in life you can't get everything you want. The scenario you laid out, Jeff, is the perfect.
Why can't you get everything you want?
Because you just don't. I mean, if you did, you wouldn't be hating on 2 programs that are currently better than yours.
I'm not hating on anybody. I'm just throwing it out there. Do you have rivalries, and rivalries have certain rules and boundaries
That's
on
what
them,
I'm
don't
saying.
they?
And the boundary would be, I'm praying on Matt Painter and Cruz's downfall if I'm an IU fan.
Over a man that ruined your program for 18 years.
Well, you just want him to lose
Yes,
the next game. That's all.
Well, you want either. I mean, you want both programs to lose. I mean,
Right.
no matter who wins on
But I would
Friday
think,
night, if Tennessee takes care of business in the first game. By the way, Kentucky will be trying to beat Tennessee for a 3rd time. I saw a stat. I think they'd be the first ever program to beat a top 10 team 3 times in one season.
that would justify your ticket getting punched to the next round, wouldn't it?
Tall order for Mark Pope and the Wildcats coming up on Friday night.
It's going to be a lot of fun. That's a
Man, KB
big
wants-
weekend. Yep, go ahead.
He wants that game to end in a tie. And fun fact, my first game I covered for the
Tie?
Colts was a tie. That's what you want. You want both teams just being agonizing in a tie where it's both of you go home.
Dude, if we go to
You're
5
both
overtimes, it's going to be 2 o'clock in the morning for that game is over. Come on.
And that game doesn't start until 10:30.
Yeah, I was talking to Chris Denieri about it yesterday, and he was telling me, "Yep, I believe he has family coming in for the game or something like that." And he's like, "Yeah, they're definitely not going to be, getting that game off anywhere near 10 p.m."
I was looking a little bit on the secondary ticket market because, again, it's the only game in a football stadium of the regionals. You're playing in NBA arenas in the other ones, and if you compared, what a section 200 ticket would look like in the other markets versus Lucas Oil, I mean, it doesn't even compare. And again, this stadium, or I should say the court, will be in the end zone for that game. So it's going to be, it's going to be nuts. And I would expect, 35-ish thousand. And I mean, there's going to be, I would say, honestly, the dominant color will be blue. I think Kentucky will have more fans than Purdue will.
I agree with that.
I don't
Big
think
Blue
it's
Nation's a different breed.
Yeah, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I've been to so many NCAA tournaments, first and second round, and it doesn't matter. First game, third game, they show up. That's one thing I'll say about, they call themselves Big Blue Nation, but they do show up. So you can't bang on them too much for that. Coming up in just a moment, we continue with Fan Morning Show. Rick Carlisle, the head coach of the Indiana Pacers, going to stop by, talk about their 16-point win at home last night. It's Fan Morning Show with Kevin Bowen, James Boyd, Jeff Rickard, Kylan Talley, right here on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
in a row for the Pacers, 8 in a row at home. You've got a preference, 4 seed, 3 seed. They are knocking on the Knicks. 2.5 back.
Yeah.
Now, the Knicks do have the tiebreaker, but again, Jalen Brunson's still dealing with this ankle injury there. You got a preference? I guess Cleveland, if you're the 4 seed, would be your second round matchup. Boston, if you're the 3 seed, would be your second round matchup.
I'm looking at the first round matchup. Like, let's not overlook that. Would you rather have the Bucks or the Pistons?
Wait, and that's still close, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Bucks and Pistons
Super
are very close.
Yeah, they're like a half game between each other. But, man, I think I said yesterday I'd rather have the Celtics in round 2, but I don't know. Like, Cleveland's playing really great, too. You're asking me hard questions, KB. The poll, now this, like, I'm very split on this.
Well, let's head to the Bayless Liquors hotline. The head coach of the Pacers joins us now. Rick Carlisle, good morning to you. How are you, Coach?
If you're not pulling for Purdue, there's something wrong, man.
Oh, my gosh.
Are you referencing our poll right there, Coach?
I caught the tail end of some of that stuff.
So, again, IU fans, who are you rooting for here coming up on Friday night? Kelvin Sampson was the first choice. Purdue was the second choice. James Boyd has made his feelings felt.
Man, current hate outweighs.
I didn't get the whole context of it. I thought it was a conversation about, if you're in Indiana, who are you going to root for? I mean, that doesn't even sound like a question.
Do you know Matt Painter well? I'm trying to think. I feel like we maybe had this conversation last March.
I've gotten to know him some, yeah, and I know Kelvin Sampson well. I mean, they're both great coaches.
Are you a bracket guy? Do you fill out a bracket?
I didn't this year, and which is ironic because I probably had seen more college games this year than ever before. So yeah, but no, I didn't.
Any reason why you've seen more college games this year?
I went to the Iowa State game. That was one thing. Followed Virginia pretty closely this year. So when you follow a certain team, you see some games. Rick Pitino is a guy that I played for a year in the NBA with the Knicks, and he's become a very good friend over the years. And so I followed St. John's, and you saw so much of their social media stuff, which was pretty compelling. So. So I guess those are the reasons. Went to the game up at Iowa State with Tyrese when he got his recognition, for being an Olympic gold medalist, and so I've seen them some. And earlier this year, we had another pit stop at Arizona for T.J. McConnell being honored in the Ring of Honor. So we've gotten to know Tommy Lloyd pretty well too.
Yeah, I think you were at Butler game earlier this year, weren't you too?
Yeah, I did. Saw Butler and Marquette, and so I mean I know Thad Matta for many years. I've known him and interacted some, and Shaka Smart's a guy that I've gotten to know and have great respect for as well.
We'll get to last night here in just a second, but I guess one more on the college front. Rick Carlisle joined us here again. Pacers have won 5 in a row. They beat the T-Wolves last night in Gainbridge Fieldhouse. I feel like you hear the reverse a lot. It's more of college coaches watching the NBA. But if you are watching the college game, is there anything in particular you look for? I guess from probably mostly a coaching standpoint, but I guess rule-wise, is there anything college-wise that you think maybe you enjoy that the NBA game doesn't have, or are you just mostly watching it purely as a fan?
As a fan, mostly. And the thing you're watching for is talent. You're watching for NBA talent. And and like the other thing is Mike Weiner on my staff is a staunch Florida guy. He went to Florida, worked on Billy Donovan's staff for a couple of years as a grad assistant. I actually met Mike when I was visiting Billy when he was the coach at Florida in the 2007-2008 season. Went down there a couple times, and Mike and I he picked me up at the airport in Orlando, and we had a couple of we had 4 different times we had hour-and-a-half drives, to and from Gainesville to the airport. So that's where I got to know him. So I'm always hearing about Florida, because of that. And then the SEC's just had some year.
Rick, going back to last night, this is just stretch overall for the Pacers. Obviously, the head of the snake is Tyrese Haliburton, another 24 and 11 last night. And I'm curious, you've coached some of the best players we've seen. Luka, one of them coming in here Wednesday. Tyrese is on that list as well. How has he maybe forced you to evolve as a coach or maybe change how you coach because he does things in such an unconventional way, but they're effective? For example, he jumps every pass, but he never turns it over. Like, he wouldn't teach that. So how has he maybe just, helped you as a coach just grow?
Yeah, really going back a number of years now, I was very fortunate. I had Chauncey Billups. We acquired him in Detroit going into my second year in Detroit, and people just didn't believe that he could run a team, be a franchise point guard, et cetera. Joe Dumars and I looked at his game very closely. We realized he had some rough luck with injuries, stuff like that. He'd been with several teams over a 4 or 5 year period, and we signed him in Detroit to a mid-level, gave him the ball, and the guy became a Hall of Fame player. And then moving on to other situations, I got to Dallas. Jason Kidd was there. Jason, I think, was 35 or 36 years old, but he was still, a monster player. And during my first year in Dallas, it became pretty clear to me that it was the best course of action was to just stay out of it and let Jason, run the team and call the plays. And it was life-changing for our team, and it was life-changing for me as a coach, because I started to see things a different way. And when you allow great players and great leaders on the floor to run teams, you see creativity that you perhaps never would have dreamed was possible. And so I went from J Kidd to and eventually, Luka came on board, and just think about it. We got Luka and Jalen Brunson in the same draft, and Brunson was a second-round pick. And I had learned with my experience with Jason, it was best to give Luka the ball and get the hell out of the way and let the guy create and do what he did. And we ran simple stuff, and he just he orchestrated. And he was Rookie of the Year his first year, and then first team All NBA his second and third. And during his third year, which was my last year in Dallas, we played the Clippers in the first round, and during that series, he set records for a third year player, triple doubles, points, everything. It was crazy. It was a wild series. We won 3 road games. They won 3 road games, and then we lost Game 7 at the Clippers. But during that period, Luka Doncic, in my opinion, during that 10-day period, whatever it was the best player on the planet. And so, those kinds of experiences, allow you to at least have the good sense. Same thing with a guy like Tyrese. And you think about it. I mean, so those names that I named, Billups, Kidd, Doncic, and Tyrese. I mean, these are going to go down as some of the greatest point guards in history.
Indeed. He'll be cheering for the Boilers coming up on Friday night. He's Rick Carlisle with us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. 5 in a row. Luka and the Lakers, and LeBron, of course, coming in town tomorrow night. That will be an ESPN game at 7:30. Coach, for our audience that might have missed what you said over the weekend about Benedict Mathurin, I thought it was pretty enlightening. Just kind of, I don't know if difficulty. Frankly, it's probably a good problem to have. But the balance, if you will, in having a player like Mathurin who is clearly elite, particularly in late game situations, particularly in isolation moments. So you have that versus, certainly last year and even this year, you guys have had signs of it. You guys have unbelievable offensive flow. even without him on the floor. And I guess what is that balance? How much is it dictated by what happens over the course of that game to know, when late game situations arise, boom, we need to put the ball in his hands versus, it's our offensive flow that's kind of gotten us to that point as well.
Well, yeah, here's the reality is when you have a player that is elite in some areas that other guys on the team aren't elite, and there's a pretty significant variance from your style. You just kind of meld the two forces, So we're hard at work now, coming up with different schemes to do offensively with him in the game as opposed to maybe a guy like Aaron or a guy like Walker. We got to take advantage of his strengths, and he's a guy that's very good in space. And so, yesterday we began doing some new things with him on the floor. And it's not just with him on the floor. These are concepts that we believe can be effective with our first unit as well. And so, these kinds of things are, someone used the word conundrum. They're really the gift of coaching. When you have something that just doesn't seem to fit, you got to be resourceful and find a way. And maybe you're not thinking about it right. maybe the rest of the team fitting with him is a little bit more of the thing. And so it creates a fertile environment for positive adjustment, change, those kinds of things. And we just got to keep bringing the whole thing together.
Rick, when you look at Andrew Nembhard, what he's done defensively this season, did you see this when you were scouting him in college? I knew he was a playmaker as a point guard and had a high assist-turnover ratio and was a really solid, steady player. But defensively, me personally, he surprised me a bit on that end, and I'm just curious to see, what you saw in him back then and then versus what you see now in his growth on that side of the ball.
Well, that was 3 years ago. I wasn't watching any college games in those games. I mean, that was different. And really, I think the IU Purdue influence, and all the talk about those two programs, and then there's Butler is here as well. I think that's another reason I've watched more. But Kevin Pritchard really liked Nembhard in the draft, and and one thing that really stuck out with him was at the pre-draft camp in Chicago, he had missed day one. He had some kind of an ailment, it may have been a tight hamstring or something like that, but he decided to play day two. And look, guys at the pre-draft camp that are a little banged up are usually very reluctant to put themselves out on the floor to play because the whole eyes of the NBA are watching. Andrew decided to play the second day and played well, and so I think it really struck Kevin that he was a guy that elected to go out there and play. That speaks to his compete level and how much he loves to compete. And when you're drafting, love of competition, compete level, love of the game, those things are very high on the list for NBA scouts, and particularly our guys, led by Kevin. And so, we got fortunate. We got him, I think, at 31. And if we hadn't taken him at 31, I'm pretty sure, I think it was Oklahoma City was going to take him at 32. And then it was a matter of watching, working with him. And while he was a point guard, on the one hand, we looked at all of the resources that we had, and we had acquired Tyrese. We needed defense. I love playmaking. It made sense to start looking at him as at the two position, and his first game as a rookie in the NBA, he didn't even get in the game, but he got in the second game because defensively we needed a spark and we needed some presence. But Andrew had been great training camp that year, and he had been physical. He didn't say much. I mean, the guy's a man of few words, but you could tell his aptitude for the game was very good, and he was tough. And then, over the last 2.5 years, he's established himself as one of the best perimeter defenders in the game.
Only says a little bit around Tony Brothers, I think is what we learned maybe a couple nights ago from Andrew Nemhart. Rick Carlisle with us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline, 5 in a row for Indiana. They'll have a back-to-back coming up, Lakers and Wizards here starting tomorrow. Coach, I don't think I've ever asked you about this, and it was a picture that was sent to me, and I know we're kind of jogging your memory a bit, so apologize if you don't recall this, but I saw this photo last week, and it's you and Ron Artest, a while ago in the photo. You have headphones on. It looks like maybe you're listening to, I don't know if it's Ron's own music, but Ron is smiling, holding some sort of what it looks like kind of a Discman. Do you recall this photo at all and any context around it?
Yeah. I remember listening to some of his stuff from time to time. I don't know if I was aware that there were actual images of that, but Ron had some interesting musical taste. He was a guy that wrote music and did some rap stuff himself. He had a fascination, I remember, with Greek rap back then, which sounds a little unusual, but I listened to some of his stuff, and I always found it interesting. And for a guy that really, I mean, when you think about him, you think about a tough, physical competitor. A guy that punished people not only at the defensive end but at the offensive end. You're a guy playing the 3 position trying to guard him. I mean, you were coming out of games with bruises and welts all over your body. I mean, he was really, really physical, but his level of physicality matched his passion for music. I'm pretty sure I'm safe in saying that.
Any thought of a collaboration, you on the piano, Ron on the vocals?
No.
I mean, I'd buy it. I would stream that, Coach
Carlisle.
Carlisle.
You'd be filling up Lucas Oil Stadium with that duo.
Yeah, no, that would be a no, but I don't know. Life is crazy. You never know. I mean, but if you're asking if he ever asked, the answer is no.
Rick Carlisle with us here on this Tuesday morning. Coach, last one, and it's probably too early for an answer, but do you know yet if Tyrese will play on both nights of the back-to-back?
I don't know.
Lakers.
I don't know. I assume that he will, but I don't know that.
Lakers tomorrow, again, 7:30, ESPN, and Wizards, the final travel back-to-back for the Pacers this season. Coach, congrats on the recent success. I know last night, probably equal amounts of stress, but a little bit less in the fourth quarter. So congrats on that win, and looking forward to chatting coming up next week.
Okay, thanks, guys. Take care.
Rick Carlisle, ready for the Boilers on Friday night right there. Payless Liquors Hotline. Do you recall that photo at all, James Boyd?
Yeah, I actually just texted it to Rick just to jog his memory. So maybe next week we can follow up and be like, hey, this is what happened. This is how you look.
Kylan, do you have access to our Twitter account? To our show Twitter account? We might need to text Mark, wake him up here down there, because it's such a great picture of Ron's got the wry smile. He's holding what I believe is some sort of Discman, and Rick is got these sorts of headphones. If you're watching on the YouTube stream, big headphones on, and they're wearing their Pacer gear. Looks like maybe they're boarding a flight or getting ready to board a flight. Rick's got looks like a bag on.
I'm telling you, Rick got bars, man. He holding out on us.
I think he's lying about that last part. We need a collaboration.
Well, he is a man of many interests now. What does he fly planes and
tons of interest?
Play piano and
told me at one time he was
basketball.
a scratch golfer. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so I wouldn't put it past that Rick has like some DMX lines somewhere, ready for the world to hear. I mean, it'll hype up the Pacers.
Get a little concert going here with the Jim Irsay collection, Ron Artest.
Oh, man. That's funny. That's actually really funny.
Rick Carlisle on that front.
I mean, I thought what he said about Matherin was interesting, KB. Like, we work so much, or we talk so much about fitting him into the team. Sometimes the team has to fit around him. And he was also saying how, sometimes you don't always get it right. And so that's an interesting, he wanted to avoid the word conundrum, but that's kind of what it is. It is a bit of a conundrum. It is a bit of a catch-22 because it just seems like there's not a perfect fit, but he's so vital to the best version of the Pacers.
Well, Rick just said it in that answer. He goes, he does something that really no one else on our team can do. And
that is one-on-one score downhill.
I think the Haliburton, Mathurin back-to-back answers were interesting because Rick pretty much said with Haliburton, you get out of the way. With these types of talents, Luka, Kidd, Billups, those types of talents, you've got to remove yourself a bit as a head coach. I would find that very challenging, I think. I think naturally when you're in a position of a coach type of authority, there's a level of control that you love, that you want to have.
Yeah.
And so for you to have to give that up with a player like Haliburton, now again, he's a world-class talent. Certainly he's earned that. With Mathurin, though, you're also kind of giving that up.
Yeah.
But there's so much more volatility.
Yeah.
With
there
it.
is.
Because again, you've gotten to the finals, Eastern Conference Finals, that is, without him necessarily making that run. Now, those in the Mathurin camp would counter and say, yeah, you did, but, also whatever. You caught injury breaks on the way, and that's not going to be necessarily the same sort of scenario maybe coming up here in a month. So it's probably a conversation that April 25th we'll get a little bit more clarity on, a week into the postseason. But I think clearly Rick's answer right there, James, is letting us know, like, they've thought about it as a staff.
Yeah.
It's not something I think has an easy answer, but certainly they're not ignoring it, and they know full well that, enter game one of the Eastern Conference round one of the playoffs and beyond, it's very much a scenario that they will likely encounter.
I tell you, in the fourth quarter, I want Mather on the floor, especially in a tight game, because he can go get you a bucket and go win you a game. That's kind of what you missed last year in the conference finals. Now, I get it. You had some injuries, and Tyrese missed, I believe, the last two games. But Benedict is sort of a go-to player in those situations, and the more you have of those in the playoffs, especially in the NBA, the better. So we'll definitely see how it all shakes out here coming up soon. But I guess good problems to have, KB. I don't know how else to look at it. I mean, you have two talented players. And, again, the way Tyrese Haliburton plays just breaks my brain because none of it is what you would teach. It's so unconventional. It's so weird. It's, it's him being fully himself, and I think it would take a hell of a coach to kind of give him that free reign where we've seen him kind of blossom into a superstar. Because, again, remember, the Kings picked between him and De'Aaron Fox, essentially, and, they ended up choosing De'Aaron, and Tyrese, when he came here, was able to really kind of break out of his shell and become the All-NBA caliber player we know now.
Luka and Jalen Brunson in the same draft? Whew.
When he said that, I was like, wow, the Mavericks would love to have that. And then, things have changed quite a bit.
Certainly they have. Joel A. Erickson from the Star coming up at 9. We'll get some Colts conversation with Joel here in a bit. Before that, let's go ahead and check it down. Somewhere last night, for the first time in a while, Slick Leonard could utter the famous phrase of "turn out the lights, the party is over." It had been certainly some dramatic-filled finishes for the Pacers in recent games, not last night. All over the T-Wolves in the third quarter especially. 119-103 was the final score. Again, 8 straight at home, 5 straight overall. Obi Toppin, outstanding, 20 points, 6 of 9 from 3. The Pacers hit 9 threes in the third quarter. James brought up the efficiency of Tyrese Haliburton, 11 assists, 1 turnover, and he put his Mrs. Bowen, Mrs. Boyd hat on after the game.
Told being the point guard of a team is like being the mom. Like, your job is to make sure everybody's happy. Like, that's kind of how I've been raised and taught how to play the position, and just trying to get guys involved, get guys the ball in the right position. And yeah, I mean, I got LASIK after my rookie year. I don't know if that helped. I got good vision, though. It's like 2010. You guys would be impressed. Our eye doctor is always impressed when I go in before the season. But, yeah, I don't know. Just trying to play the right way, take care of the ball. I hate turning the ball over, as so do a lot of point guards. But, I'm just trying to play the right way. And, I think that's just how I play basketball.
One time for Mother's Day, I gave my mom a card. Now, to be fair, I think this was a long, long time ago. I hope it wasn't recent. I believe in the card I wrote, "Roses are red, violets are blue. I like the way you clean, and you are not mean." Do you think if I threw in there, hey, you mom, like Tyrese Haliburton plays point guard, do you think she would appreciate that? Do you think that would resonate with her? Do you think that would maybe rise above the "I like the way you clean and you are not mean"?
Does she have a frame of reference for Haliburton? Because my mom actually knows Haliburton. And she's like, that boy bad, ain't he? And when she says bad, that means he's good. Like, that boy bad, ain't he? I'm like, yeah,
I don't know if
bad.
we're getting 82 nights out of the year appointment television at the Bowen household. It might be Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, and then it kind of falls off a little bit there. But she certainly knows of Tyrese Haliburton and his talents.
Well, I mean, you can also ask her, hey, do you want to hear a Rick Carlisle mixtape? He just texted me back and said, "Don't hold your breath."
That is excellent. 7:30 tomorrow. It is the Lakers. They are reeling again. LeBron, Luka, and company, and then a back-to-back after that at the Wizards coming up on Thursday. As exciting and eventful as last night from the Pacers were, unfortunately, the news from the NCAA Women's Tournament, the exact opposite. Just an awful scene early in USC's game last night against Mississippi State. Juju Watkins, the star of the USC Trojans and arguably the star of women's college basketball, carried off the floor early in that game. Torn ACL. USC has announced she will miss the rest of the season. Just awful. James, you talked about it in the opening hour. Paige Becker's UConn, Olivia Miles at Notre Dame, and we've seen the best players in the women's game suffer these sorts of injuries, and now Juju Watkins, in what in all likelihood obviously is going to end her season, but for a USC standpoint, will probably end their chances of winning a title.
I really believe so because, I mean, it's any team. You can't lose arguably the best player in the country, the national player of the year, and still be able to go out there and win a national championship, in my opinion. Now, if USC pulls that off, that would be one of the greatest stories ever in the sport, but that would be extremely hard. And Juju, I mean, just the level of notoriety, the level of fame that she's, kind of wielded and wielded in a great manner. Like I said in the first hour, I compare it to the way Caitlin Clark kind of carries the game on her back, where you can't really look at anything that they've done and say, oh, this was a misstep or this is where you went wrong. Like, they've been great ambassadors for the game, and it's just hard to see. It's tough to see. And I would say if you're looking for a silver lining, because the women have to stay 4 years, this isn't the end of her career. And for example, if this was Cooper Flagg, we'd be like, man, that's the end for him at Duke.
Right.
Whereas she'll get a chance to come back and hopefully get healthy and then get another shot at winning a national championship.
Notre Dame has advanced to Sweet 16, so local-wise, 1 o'clock on Saturday. They've got TCU. TCU did beat them earlier this season, as the women will shift to the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. Not a lot else on my end. James announced yesterday Mackenzie Mbako, Indiana's second leading scorer, into the transfer portal. I don't think the most shocking news item there. Honestly, for a five-star talent, Indiana fans probably left a hair frustrated with his 2 seasons. Moments of at Purdue, I remember that game especially this season where he was outstanding in that game. And then the second Purdue game, he gets benched for the second half there. So some inconsistencies in his career, but in all likelihood, Dare DeVries is going to have a lot to rework from that roster.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen him do it before. Like I said earlier, I believe he had one player hold over from the previous roster to this past year's roster at West Virginia, and they still went from 9 wins to 19 wins. And so that is something he's prepared for, and I expect him to respond well to it. And obviously it helps when you get your son to come play with you. If he's healthy, there's one really good player you're already getting in a three-point shooter with some size. So Tucker DeVries will definitely be welcome in Bloomington.
Should the Colts draft a quarterback? How early should they do that? If so, we'll chat about that on the other side. This is the Fan Morning Show here on a Tuesday, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan. variety of topics. James Boyd, he shared a text with you during the break there on the iconic Ron Artest picture.
Yeah, I shot him the photo because he said he wasn't familiar with it or couldn't recall it. And then I said, hey, I'm waiting on the album. And he said, don't hold your breath. So that was a funny moment. I want to bring up another funny moment real quick. So at the game last night, Alex Golden, we know, Setting the Pace podcast.
I love him.
He's awesome. There was a moment there where they got a steal, and Thomas Bryant went up. Do you remember this play, KB? He went up to try to dunk it, and I think he kind of realized, I can't get to the next level.
Is that when the bench reacted?
I believe so, because Rudy Gobert walled up, and he jumps, and he gets stuck in the air, and I don't know what to do. He just throws it up, and he catches the ball into travel.
The bench was dying laughing.
Funniest play, okay, so I started laughing, and I usually don't laugh too much on press row. I try to keep it professional, but I had to laugh. I was like, this is hilarious. And then out here, Alex just cracking up, and that makes me laugh even more. And so
it's probably a good thing you guys are up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. So after the game, players in a good mood, and Obi gets off the stand after he finishes his press conference, and Alex goes, what'd you think of Thomas's dunk? And he's like, what dunk? And I was like, the one he didn't finish. He's like, oh Lord. I just lost it again. The best thing about sports, and this is what I miss about being on a high school team. Obviously I didn't play at a high level, but when your best friends do something silly in a game and you win, so you can kind of clown them in the moment, I'm everyone in the locker room, when they go over film, they're gonna be like, what the heck were you thinking?
1,000%. Especially at that level. That was a very junior high school moment. I feel like there's been some of those where Haliburton or McConnell's on a breakaway. It's are they going to dunk it? Are they going to try to dunk it here?
You tried to go up and the elevator told you, you know what, brother? You can't get to the 11th floor. So that was funny. Also, shout out to TJ McConnell. It's his 33rd birthday today. So
wow. TJ, a big part of that third quarter last night, too. And one of the things I was
nervous
thinking
there when he turned that ankle, but he was able to stay in the game there. And, I thought he was key. I thought the bench they were the first people to kind of ignite it last night. And then, obviously, Haliburton and Toppin in the third quarter put them away.
I was going to say, I think one of the things that I would think Rick is really comfortable with this team right now is that bench. Just there's no drop-off. When you put your
you had the bench issues about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
so
that
to
was
see
depth,
that group
right? Health, right?
Playing a little bit better. Yeah, obviously Haliburton back in the lineup kind of gets everybody realigned with that bench unit. How much you use it. The depth was so key for the Pacers last season, and the playoff run will be huge. James, we teased before the break, quarterback for the Colts in the draft. We are less than a month away from the NFL draft. Actually, 1 month from today will be rounds 2 and 3. The draft will be April 24th. 25th and 26th this year up in Green Bay. I bring this up. Did you see the report yesterday? Quinn Ewers visiting the Colts, one of the top 30 visits for the Colts, the Texas quarterback.
I believe it was Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated reported this.
Yeah, who else was it? Raiders and Giants?
Raiders and Cowboys.
Raiders and Cowboys. I knew it was some quarterback-hungry teams.
Is that the next Sam Ehlinger?
I think he'd be drafted higher than Ehlinger, right?
I'm just talking about career arc.
6th round. Let's just start here. Should the Colts draft a quarterback?
I'm going to say yes. Maybe we need
how early?
Oh, that's the harder question.
That's the $64,000 question.
And I guess while you think, just to update everybody on where you're at quarterback-wise on the roster, Richardson with multiple years left on his rookie deal, Daniel Jones in the 1-year deal, Sam Ehlinger and Joe Flacco are both still free agents, so they both are on the open market. And then Jason Bean, the undrafted legend out of Kansas, he is still on the roster. So right now you got 3 quarterbacks on your roster.
I would say I might draft one seriously, and maybe the 4th round. Is that too early?
What kind of name are you thinking in the 4th round?
I feel like that's kind of where Ewers has been thrown around.
Quinn Ewers, Kyle McCord. I think Will Howard will go earlier than the 4th round because of what he did in the college football playoff against KB's Notre Dame.
Am I allowed to put up my middle finger at James Boyd right now?
I think you just did.
I mean,
what do you mean allowed?
The YouTube stream, I'm a little nervous about that.
Feel free. I'm going to show your students, hey, this is how you don't act in media. But I'm not opposed to it. I mean, I can see both sides to it, but if I had to pick, I would say, yeah, get a young quarterback in your pipeline, someone you can take a flyer on to develop, and have that be your 3 quarterbacks in the room. Now, is that too much turnover in 1 year? I don't know, but Where do you guys stand on this? I can go either way, seriously.
I think my tune has changed a bit on drafting quarterbacks.
Same.
I would draft one every year, and I wouldn't spend
I don't know about that.
a premium
Hold on.
draft pick every year. But I think day 3 can be such a crapshoot with quarterbacks. I would throw a dart at that board on day 3 on an annual basis. I think the position means that much. I don't know if I saw like
back then. Like, well, in theory, you would have a new quarterback every year.
Well,
Like,
again, I
As
think
opposed to.
I think you have 4 spots at quarterback
Okay.
on a roster. I think you carry 3 on your 53 and your practice squad. So, you're going to churn and burn. I just don't see the need to have Sam Ehlinger be your third string quarterback for 4 straight years. Like, don't we know what Sam Ehlinger is?
Yes.
I would rather kind of replenish that guy of like, okay, after 2 years, we kind of know what Ehlinger is. Boom, let's move on and get the next new guy and see how we can develop him. Again, some of these guys are going to be on your practice squad. I'm not acting like they're going to be on your roster.
Yeah, I hear you.
Now, where you would draft it, I'm probably a little bit, round 4 might be a hair early for my liking. And I'm trying to go through some of the needs in my head right now. Tight end, abundant need. Probably the biggest need of any right now entering the draft. I don't think defensive line is. I think D-line would be number 2. I think you can make the case that offensive line would be right there at 2.
Yeah.
Some might say, hey, what about a running back? And I don't necessarily discredit that. And then linebacker. I mean, right now, linebacker is still a position group that EJ Speed's a free agent. Are you just handing the starting keys to Jalen Carlisle? Is that what they're doing? So when you start to kind of rank these needs, I don't know if I can have quarterback necessarily, penetrating that high into the draft. But having said that, I would be perfectly fine if they drafted a quarterback. Again, Jones is on a 1-year deal. I mean, hell, you can make the case that Richardson is on a 1-year deal just based off the decision that you're going to have on him. So, yeah, throw a dart at the quarterback draft board and see what happens.
What do you guys think about Jackson Dart if he's available still in the 3rd round?
Oh, I think Jackson Dart will be long gone.
Yeah, I think he'll be long gone.
That's why I ask if he's available.
I think
in
that'd
the
be a
3rd round.
miracle if he's there at
What about the 2nd round then?
90. Again,
It's probably too early.
that's just too early for me.
Yeah, I mean, you still have to go out there and try to put a competent roster together to win now. And any quarterback you draft in outside of the 1st round, you're not going to make your franchise guy. So probably too early for that. I also think that it will come down to the physical tools you have, which is why I kind of named some of the players that I mentioned. Like,
Would you want more of a pocket guy? Because in Richardson,
Not
you don't have
necessarily.
that. Jones is also a little bit more dual threat.
yeah.
Do you want do you want the Curtis Rourke, who maybe not might make a play or two with his legs, compared to a Riley Leonard? Like Riley Leonard's more in the Daniel Jones, Richardson mold, whereas Curtis Rourke is more of the old school throwback. I'm a JV version of Phillip Rivers.
See, I think that quarterback will be phased out. Like, I think when we look up in 20 years, we won't have any quarterbacks that are just stationary pocket passers. The league has just changed. The math helps you. When you have a guy who's mobile, it just helps you to have an extra lid when he runs to block. And so you don't have to be, Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, but you got to be mobile. And so I would lean more towards that, which again is maybe why I would lean, a bit towards some of the names that I mentioned. I mean, Quentin Ewers is mobile. Kyle McCord has some mobility. Probably the least mobile of the ones I named. Will Howard is, I believe, more of a true dual threat. And I think I don't want to say it's a knock on Sam, but the thing that's holding him back is that he just physically, I don't think he can do the job as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Like, I don't know if he has the arm talent to go out there and make all the throws that he needs to make. Like, I mean, if we're being real, Sam is like everything you want when it comes to preparation.
Let me be
here.
clear on your quarterback depth chart. I'm not saying when you're drafting these dudes annually, you think that this dude can one day have a statue next to Peyton Manning.
No.
It's all right. Some injuries occur.
Yeah.
Do you have some sort of insurance at quarterback? And I go back to the Cleveland Browns a few years ago. I mean, that was a miracle what the Browns pulled off with all those quarterback injuries.
He's still going to the playoffs.
And somehow, some way, Flacco comes off the couch and boom, they go to the playoffs. Like, that is the anomaly in all of this. So if that happens, if DEFCON happens, do you have some depth to where, all right, maybe we can keep the ship afloat versus, hell, I'd rather just have Jonathan Taylor be the Wildcat quarterback for the week.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if I trust Sam Ehlinger to step in and win me 2 or 3 games. I don't think he's won a game actually in the NFL. Now, I will defend him on this. He should never have been in there. We know the mandate that came down was Sam get in there, and that was just a disaster of a season for him to even have some games in. But I just don't think that he's someone that I would trust to help me out in a pinch. Not because he doesn't want to, or he's not engaged, he's not focused or dedicated. Just physically, I don't know if he can do it.
What do you think about third day, a couple of local guys if they're still available? What about, we talked about Tyler Shuck, Curtis Rourke. Would you be willing to bring those guys in? Do they fit that bill for you?
Again, I'm not too enamored stylistically with like what your third or fourth string quarterback looks like. Do I think that to succeed in the NFL, you have to have the ability to make a play or two with your legs? Yes, unquestionably. But I can't get too nitpicky at pick number 157 or 180
That's
in what
true.
I'm doing here.
More importantly, if they do draft Shuck, does Mark then have to buy me some koala Mars? Do you see what I'm saying?
You're gonna have to clear that up with Mark. That man was not too happy with your delayed.
Oh, you got 10.
Presence.
You got a 10-pack. What do you mean? And he got it on time.
We'll let Mark speak for himself.
Yeah.
He went on
When he
vacation with
rejoins
the
us.
10-pack.
Yeah, he was passing them out on his flight. I
Well,
think.
he loved it on the text line.
It was a
tell you
little
that.
Oprah action. You get one. You get one.
All right. Coming up at the top of the hour, Joel Erickson stops by. We'll talk Indianapolis Colts for you. We continue next with your thoughts at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Is anyone else sick of this song too?
You just had to get it out of your head, right?
The
You
new
have to
one
listen.
shining moment, Kylie.
She figures if she plays this on the air, it'll finally just bounce out of her noggin.
Sounds like her theme music coming in tomorrow.
I think that's it. That's your walk-up music right there,
Here we
Kyle.
go.
I hope I'm doing everyone else a favor and getting it out of your head too.
It does seem like literally every re-entry of a March Madness game, this is what CBS is going with.
Yeah.
And hey, the couple days that you're away from March Madness, you need a little bit of it, get you in the vibe for it.
There you go.
Were you
Thursday?
bopping to this just in the stairwell on the way up to work today, or what?
Unfortunately,
Oh,
not on
gosh.
purpose. It's still just running through my head.
Like it.
Same for the Geico commercial. Oh,
It's the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff. Kylan in for Mark Dykton this week. We're happy to have her here, and she's making the place better already. Speaking of kind of pop culturist type stuff, I finished season 2 of Severance last night. That's a trip.
Ooh.
It's a trippy show, man.
Yeah, I finished Severance as well. I
That'll
know-
test your brain.
Yeah, I went on a rant about how it was terrible for like 3 weeks, and I was never going to watch it again. But then I got FOMO, fear of missing out, so I sat down and watched it. And I won't give any spoilers, but it is a show you have to pay attention to, and it definitely racks your brain. I feel like my brain's scrambled, so I'm always reading what I just watched. Like, what does this all mean, kind of way. So maybe I'm just too shallow of a person to understand the show, but I'm like, man, this is a lot going on. But nevertheless, it is unique. And shout out to Ben Stiller for just I wouldn't expect him to be the person to create that, which speaks to like just his versatility as an actor and a thinker.
I won't spoil anything either, but I thought that the self-discussion was fascinating. They really did that well.
I
Really
would hate
did
to
that
have
well.
a conversation with Enter James about life. No.
You know what we didn't bring up yesterday? It's got my mind in a pretzel. I think we already have the early award for worst tweet of 2025.
what
Dang, is that
what
me?
did you find?
Hope I'm not up there.
There's a long way to go this year, man. Don't jinx it.
It might be that poll you put out there that's skewed.
Wow.
This tweet: love is in the air, and life is better with you by my side.
Oh, this is hilarious.
I know where this is going.
We look forward to our journey through life together. At this time, we would appreciate privacy for all those close to our hearts. Tiger Woods, what the hell are you doing?
Did you get an alert on that, by the way? I know
Of
you get
course I got
Tiger
an
Woods
alert.
alerts.
I honestly was thinking, like, is he still like a bit drugged up from like the Achilles surgery or something?
You know what,
Like, why would you
James?
tweet
That thought crossed my mind.
Is that
as
like
well.
her pressuring
he's
him to
gotta
be
be
Instagram
loopy.
official, sort of?
Oh,
I mean, we got
Twitter
these,
official?
we got these pictures here. I mean, they look to be a very happy couple. I'm a little confused by them laying on the couch and that little picture outside. But nonetheless, nothing says like a total pot kettle black of, at this time we would appreciate privacy. Let me send out a tweet to my 6.4 million followers
Yeah.
announcing
Look at
my
us.
relationship with
That'll be
Vanessa
shared
Trump
by
Jr.
another 6 million, right?
Right.
Tiger, what are we doing?
Man, this is like anybody
Tiger
I
is
know
so
from-
broken, man.
This is like the people I went to high school with, and they would, I'm going to take a social media break. Why are you announcing it? Just leave. I don't need to know.
Respect our privacy.
I don't get it.
Tiger, what the fuck?
Is that better than the picture of Bill and his girlfriend on the beach with him
Well, I
twirling her around on his feet?
Those aren't the worst pictures in the world, if I'm going to be totally honest. But,
Uh,
Tiger, what are we doing? I mean,
KB, you do know these are like, what is it, FCC airwaves? Colin gave me this look where you said, and it kind of came off as a little,
I think I kept it quiet. Did
What the-
did I, Kylan?
just in case.
Yeah.
Right?
Did you dump
KB?
it?
Yeah.
Are you
Oh,
slightly
wow.
grumpy heading into class today? Is
Kylan
that what
dumped
the
it.
deal is?
Okay,
Well,
interesting.
Okay. You didn't finish your thought.
Right.
But then you started with a "ka" word.
Yeah.
And so I had,
Yeah.
how do I not?
Just in case.
Right?
She's on it. She's sharp.
They're not coming after me.
Mark Dykton would have let that go in a heartbeat.
That's right, because he's
That's
saying
why
the
you.
same thing.
That's why you need Kylan in here sometimes.
Yeah.
After seeing that tweet from Tiger, I'm now convinced he'll never play in another tournament ever again.
Now is what convinced you?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Love has pulled him away.
I mean, what
you
in the
don't count the
world-
made-for-TV
What in the world was
team
that,
stuff?
Tiger? That's not the Tiger Woods I know.
That was the weakest game ever. But you know what? When you
Worst
got money
tweet of
like him,
2025.
when you got money like that, I guess it all works. But that is
We're
weak.
barely 3 months in, but
I
Tiger
still
Woods takes the cake.
I still
I'm gonna
imagine.
announce my next girlfriend like that.
Man,
Respect the privacy. Here I am announcing it
That's
on social.
Stamp it.
that's how that goes. All right, we're going to talk Colts. Joel A. Erickson steps in. I don't think he's gone Instagram official with anything this week, has he? Free agency or anything else like that?
Joel
No.
does not strike me as that individual.
What's crazy is like I hear about his wife and his kids all the time, and I promise you, I never knew what they looked like until I saw his wife in Germany because she took the trip over there for the game that we had a couple years ago, and that was it. So I don't think he's blasting on Twitter, keep our privacy and things like that. It's so stupid.
We'll talk to Joel about Colts coming up next. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. This is one of those that gets into my head and I can't get out. So I
We
appreciate
gotta
that
do a
help.
TikTok dance.
Mwah.
KB,
I know, man.
You joining me? There's a TikTok trend to this.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you man.
I feel like my wife is all over this.
My goddaughter. Seriously, whenever I see her, I practice my TikToks because she's the one who's always asking to TikTok. I didn't see her this past weekend, but I'm hoping to see her for Easter.
Has she recorded
So-
this yet?
No, I mean, I
wanna see it.
I have a couple on my phone. I'll show you.
All right.
Seriously, I
Where
am
can we find you on TikTok?
I'm a TikToker, Romeoville kid.
All right.
I'm a TikToker with my goddaughter. So there'll be some things on there where got to embarrass yourself a little bit. Kyle's getting a kick out of it. It's true. You got to embrace it.
Jeff, you are a TikTok fan, right?
I love, as you know, I share a lot of sports TikTok and things like that. I'm big on sports, and I don't know if it's real or not, but it's entertaining to me. I'm all in on alien conspiracies. 100% in.
That
I
is
have
juicy.
no idea whether it's real or not, but when it does happen, I'll be like, I guess it was.
I get my recipes from TikTok. So I will
good.
cook off TikTok. My mom's proud of that. I'll send her some TikTok things. We bond over that. And she's like, wow, you've really grown since being the guy who couldn't make, toast when you were living at home. So
Those people get creative, man.
I know. And long as it's not past like 8 or 9 steps, I'm usually okay. Once we start getting into, too many measurements, I'm like, all right, now I'm not that.
I'm out. Let's check in with our next guest now on the Payless Liquors hotline, talking Colts and everything else with
Ask
Joel
him about
A.
food.
Erickson. What about you and food and
He's the
TikTok?
man.
Where are you at there, Joel?
I do TikTok the way most older people do TikTok, which is I would see it on Instagram.
But no, seriously, Joel is like a chef, a cook. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
He's actually really good at this.
Wow.
Well, if you have questions about food, how to cook certain things, Joel A. Erickson is your man.
Wow. What would be your preferred dish if you would, not saying you will or would, but what would you make the morning show, the fan morning show here?
What would I make the morning show? Well,
Yeah.
if it's the morning show, we're gonna get the smoker out the
Ooh.
night before.
I like it.
What?
I'm
And,
there.
Is it out for opening day,
Yeah.
Joel?
Is it what?
Is it out for opening
Is
day?
the smoker out for opening day? It may be. I haven't decided yet if we're going full smoker for the opening day. But that's I go smoker for opening day and probably do some pulled porks with some with whatever hits me as far as the seasoning and the marinade that day.
See, he sounds like a dude that could whatever hits
knows.
me. The
Yeah.
smoker. I have an air fryer at home.
It's an artiste.
Me and Dino Nuggets are locked in. I don't think Joel has made a Dino Nugget ever.
Oh, come on. Now
Well,
he's
a
got 3
homemade
young
dino
boys.
nugget.
Not for himself is what I'm saying. So I'm just throwing it out there.
You've made homemade nuggets, though, right, Joel?
The boys will have some dino. The boys get dino nuggets when like I make tilapia or catfish or something, and they don't like the stuff that goes with it. So that's when they get dino nuggets and mac and cheese.
There you go.
Those kids don't
Now,
know what they're missing.
I do have to ask, Joel, before we shift gears to Colts, we had this debate last week. I mentioned I thought Thursday, probably my favorite day of the year from a sports calendar standpoint. Obviously, I'd rank the Masters up there, certainly Super Bowl Sunday. Where you are a diehard baseball fan, you are a diehard Brewers fan specifically. Where does Thursday rank for you on the sport day calendar?
I think it's right up there because you got the Sweet 16 going on, you've got baseball going on.
Well, I kind of forgot about that.
Also baseball. Also with baseball, like I've lived most of my life in the Midwest, and opening day is also like, hey, we're gonna get through this, guys. It's not gonna be.
Let's all hold hands at the bus
Cold
stop. Here
forever.
we go.
Yeah. It's time. It's the Brewers are gonna have the roof closed for the first month, but after that, it's gonna open, and there will be sun.
And then you'll have a guy sliding down into a mug of beer, and you'll be all good. Joel A. Erickson joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline. We are ready to talk about some Colts here. It's been a very quiet week, though. What have we learned about this team in the last 7-10 days?
I think the biggest thing is just that, the last 7-10 days, I would say the biggest thing we've learned is beyond early in that part, since we got to talk to Charvarius Ward and Cam Bynum, just confirming what I'd already heard behind the scenes and what we saw from the signings, that Colts were very aggressive. That was one piece of it. I think the other piece of it is the fact that there haven't been necessarily a raft of signings, of smaller signings after that, it just tells you what their priorities were going into free agency. They had the big guys they wanted to make splashes on, the big positions they wanted to fix, and then the rest of them, it'll probably be more of an approach to what we've seen before, where it's the draft, it's low cost investments that kind of come to them, and I know they've got cap space out there. I wonder if they're saving that for a Bernard Ryman extension or something this summer.
Joel, when you look at the moves that were made, obviously we know they upgraded in the secondary. They added Daniel Jones at quarterback. But what other positions do you think are a priority now versus maybe coming into free agency?
Yeah, I still think offensive line, the depth on the offensive line is something that we're probably underrating right now. They've got Pinner back, but Wesley French is coming off an injury. They didn't want to play Blake Freeland last year. They need some guys depth-wise. I think that's probably a draft thing. Linebacker is the obvious one. There's a big hole there. Starting weak side linebacker. That's another one that Chris Ballard has proven he can get in the draft. And then, I think some of these other spots, a sneaky one that I'm not sure everyone's talking about is defensive end. Odengbo played more snaps than anybody last year. Led the team in pressures, led the team in quarterback hits. Maybe the sack numbers weren't there, but that's a lot of production they've got to replace. And, you're trying to replace it with – I know they've got Ebicom coming back, but he's coming back off of an Achilles tear. And we've seen in the past that sometimes you don't get all of your explosiveness back that first year.
He wishes his pitching staff still had Ben Sheets. He's Joel Erickson getting ready for opening day coming up.
I very much do.
Gosh, he was such a Reds killer back in the day. He's with us here on the Payless Slickers hotline ahead of opening day. Joel, owners meeting's coming up next week. Draft less than a month away. Let's go to the draft here. Pick 14. I give you tight end or I give you the field. What are you taking?
I'm going to zag and take the field.
Because that's Ballard?
And take the field. Just because of Ballard, because maybe, with the Loveland injury and if Warren's off the board, and then just the depth of the position, the feeling that, hey, we can still get this later. I'll zag a little bit and take the field. Tight end is the obvious pick. I just think I can see a scenario where they end up going elsewhere, and maybe we're looking at a Mason Taylor type pick in the second round.
What would surprise you more in the first 3 rounds? A quarterback or a running back?
Oh, quarterback. Quarterback, because I think you could make, a first-round running back would shock me more than anything else. But I think you could make the case in the second or third round that, you're diving hard into the run thing. You've got JT for only so many more years. You want to do it. I think I could maybe see that pick more than I think it'd be a little bit more surprised by the quarterback pick.
What about on day 3?
Day 3, I would not be surprised by a quarterback pick. Just Ellinger's not on the roster. There's an emergency quarterback that all teams pretty much carry. I think that's maybe more likely to me. I think the biggest thing that would surprise me about it being a day 3 pick is that, I'm no draft analyst. I kind of just pay attention to what those guys do. All of them say that this quarterback class is bad. And I don't know if you want to get involved with the depth of a quarterback class that's bad.
Joel, pivoting back to the signings in free agency, we had a chance to talk to Cam Bynum. I keep wanting to say Cam Ward because Charvarius Ward, Cam Bynum, Cam Ward. It
get all the best of everything.
Yeah, it gets scrambled together. But Cam Bynum, what were your impressions of him? And also, I know we kind of relate on this note when it comes to the human aspect of guys. What do you think about him living full-time in the offseason in the Philippines on top of, training for the NFL?
That's a really interesting piece. I mean, we've all got, we've all got stuff, from our families, where, I'm Puerto Rican on my mother's side.
Can you explain the A real quick in your name and why that's significant? I think that'll explain why you're passionate about this.
Yeah, so the reason I use the A is because my middle name is Anthony. I'm named after my grandmother, who was Antonia. She was born in Puerto Rico. So, and she was a wonderful, wonderful woman. So I always use it as like a shout out to her side because the rest of my name is all my dad's side. But like I've got that influence. I've never been to Puerto Rico. It's like another level of commitment to go live in the country in the off season. Just a really interesting guy, fascinating guy. Just the being able to connect with that part of his family history in a way where he's living there. His wife is from there. All that stuff's really interesting. And I think the other thing with Cam Bynum is just super confident dude, but really confident in his leadership skills, which I think that's all stuff we knew. Just a different kind of confidence than Ward, who's I think I said to you guys after he walked out, I was like, that's a cornerback. Cornerbacks, that they have a special kind of confidence that I don't think is replicated elsewhere easily.
Cornerback swagger right there for Ward.
Yeah,
I would say
yes.
One thing on Bynum too, I feel like he's got a great spirit about him. It's just like I don't know how to describe it, but I just think there's a great
presence,
spirit about him. Yeah, but like not in an outwardly vocal way. Like he's not just some dude that's talking just to talk.
It's just there. He's got a presence.
Yeah,
right?
and the story I think is great. Joel, last one for me. Owners meeting's coming up. Biggest question for Jim Irsay if he talks, and biggest question for Chris Ballard.
I think the biggest question for Irsay is just, what do you see in Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen that led you to make that decision? And is this a make or break year? Definitively, is this a make or break year for them? What do they have to do? For Ballard, I think, and really for Steichen too. The question is, what did you guys see in Daniel Jones? What do you guys think he can be more than he was in New York? That kind of thing is maybe the most interesting piece to me is the explanation for Daniel Jones, why they went so hard after him. Because I kind of think that the free agency piece, investing in the secondary, I kind of think that's an action where the action kind of spoke for itself. We kind of know what happened there. The interest in Daniel Jones, what they see in him, do they see more than there was in New York? That's the kind of stuff that I'm interested in for this owners meetings.
Hey, last thing, when we've been talking about this all week, I wanted you to weigh in before we let you go, Joel, is Kevin brought up the point that all of the guys they've brought in have so much, just a wealth of postseason experience, something the Colts didn't really have a year ago. Obviously, we think that's intentional, but what are your thoughts on what maybe moved Chris Ballard to finally move that direction?
Well, I think, there were so many people saying, like, one of the things this team has not done is they don't finish. And playoff teams finish. They finish games. If you watch most playoff teams, well, shoot, look at the Chiefs last year. There's a bunch of games that they don't play well and they look like they're going to lose. And then they make a couple plays at the end. And it's kind of an intangible thing. Can't really measure it. But players always talk about, like, some guys just know how to win. I think that probably plays into it a little bit. They talk so much about all the finishing, and we can't finish the big games. Going out and getting guys who've done it probably helps.
Are you and JB going to have a self-imposed curfew at these owners meetings, or is it just going to be all-out celebration?
No, I'm following Joel around to all the restaurants because he knows I'm telling you, he knows what to eat. He's the guy when we're on the road. I'm like, Joel, where should I go? Where we getting dinner? I'm tagging along. This is a thing. We're bonded.
There you go, Joel. You're bonded.
I'm fine with this. James is usually skeptical, and then usually when we get there, he's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Does he order nuggets off the child's menu when you go places? Or
I
what?
have never ordered dino nuggets with Joel Eriks. I think he would probably kick me out of the place.
James goes to the bathroom. Joel orders for him. Yeah, I got my kid in the bathroom. He would like this.
Sir, can we
Joel,
see your
who wins
ID?
the Central?
I don't want to say who I think is going to win the Central.
Say it.
You can be biased. You're good.
It's going to make Mark Dykton feel so good.
Really? You're going there?
Yeah.
Man.
Are you saying that because you don't want to brag on your own team?
There's a piece of me that just keeps feeling like my team, like there's got to be, like we keep doing this thing where everyone expects us to finish fourth in the Central and then we win it.
And this would be the Brewers for those
Yeah.
unfamiliar.
I think the Brewers are the sneaky favorite there this year, Joel.
I like most of what they've done. I just have this nagging piece of me that's like, it's got to go out some point. At some point, you're gonna have a bad season. I also think that the Cubs bullpen luck maybe goes the other way this year. We'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic about the Brewers, but yeah, there's some stuff that could go bad injury wise that makes me nervous.
It's pretty wild to look at the over-unders in the division. You guys at 84.5, the Brewers. The Cubs also at 84.5. Reds 80.5. Pirates 77.5. And boy, can we all just hold hands together? The Cardinals last at 76.5. That is just, you know what? It probably won't play out that way, but that is just music to my ears here on March 25th.
If you look at the Cardinals offseason, if you didn't know anything about baseball and you went and looked at the Cardinals offseason, if you follow sports at all, you'd be like, oh wow, they really didn't add anybody from a bad team. They lost guys off of a bad team. They're trying to go through a reset down there. And yes, KB, I'm with you. I went to school in the state of Missouri. I was around a lot of Cardinals fans. Apologies to Cardinals fans who are listening, but it does not hurt my feelings to see them projected to be at the bottom.
We'll celebrate wins in late March if we must, and that's what we're going to do right now.
All right, Joel, thanks for being here, buddy. We appreciate it.
You bet.
There he is, the man who feeds James Boyd on the Red, keeps you healthy and nourished.
I mean, I don't know about feeds, but he definitely suggests.
Just picturing him with a fork at the plate,
yeah, I don't know if
feeding
he's doing
James
like the
Boyd.
airplane game.
Joel
like,
Erickson just doing it all.
Yeah, I don't know if he's doing the airplane,
Getting you lobster, you got a bib on.
I don't know about that,
That's how
but
that works.
he really does have the best food recommendations, so I'm usually tagging along, and he's expanded my palate. So I'll give him credit for that.
Speaking of outstanding food, I encourage everyone out there, when the tournament games start up again on Thursday, the Dunk Fest option from our friends at Cluster Truck, outstanding deal, $29.99. You get 2 pounds of chicken strips, excellent. You get chips and queso, you get cheese bread, and a little churro action. So 4 different items, again, $29.99. Use FAN promo code with Cluster Truck. Again, those will start up with games beginning on Thursday, especially if you're watching with, kids, couples, whatever. The Dunk Fest from Cluster Truck is terrific.
It is outstanding. They just delivered our breakfast to us, so I'm looking forward to that a little bit later on. One more thing on what Joel was saying there. Honestly, I'm going to pound the over on the Brewers. I see them
84.5, them and the Cubs.
I see them between 88 and 90 wins. I really do.
Why don't we start opening day earlier in the day? Our first game is 3 o'clock Thursday. Can we treat this as a holiday in some of these cities?
You want it to be kind of like the tournament?
Noon.
Let's go. Stagger them.
Why would
Noon,
you?
1, 2,
I kind
3,
of forgot
4, 5,
until Joel
6, 7,
said
8.
it. If you're playing at 6 o'clock, you're bumping into the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
Sweet 16 starts at 7. So, I don't like that whatsoever. Treat it like holidays. I mean, some of these cities, the Reds especially, Cincinnati, just take the day off. Start them at noon. Start them at 1.
We got to go as a group to a Reds game, I think.
I think
After a
John has
show
done
one of
that
these
several
days.
times.
Yeah, we got to do that. All right, coming up in a moment, we will take more thoughts on the Colts and what they've been doing and what they need to do getting ready for the upcoming draft. Also, the Pacers on a little bit of a roll. We'll tell you more about that right now as we check it down. JB, you were the morning show representative at the game last night. Pacers win at 119-103. Once again, Tyrese Haliburton with another amazing double-double. They got a great third quarter from Obi Toppin and bench play, and everybody was contributing in that landslide of a third quarter.
Oh, it was great. I mean, Tyrese Haliburton, 24 and 11. I believe it was his 11th straight double-double. I saw the NBA tweeted out that it's the third longest double-double streak in Pacers history, and I'm curious to know who the other two are.
Mark Jackson's got to be one, right?
They didn't say, but I'm like, I think Sabonis is on that list.
He might be.
He just wake
the
up
first
and
two
get
that came to mind were Sabonis and Jermaine O'Neal.
Yeah, but again, getting back to Tyrese, played well, team's playing well. Even Thomas Bryant and his missed dunk there had me laughing when they were, trying to pull away. So good win for them.
You had a great description of that dunk earlier.
Oh, that was the funniest
The elevator
play,
just stopped.
The funniest play in the game, for sure. The entire bench was dying laughing. I was dying laughing after the game. You got Obi Toppin taking us to church. Oh, Lord. Was his reaction to what happened on that play. But, oh, Lord, is what, the Timberwolves said when they, took that L. I mean, it was a pretty start to end game for the Pacers where they just dominated pretty much the entire game outside of like the early fourth quarter. But again, I mean, that's 5 straight, 8 straight at home. Can't complain too much.
Bucks lost to the Suns 108-106. That means the Pacers are 2 games up on them. Kevin, since that 10-15 start, the Pacers are now 32-15.
Yeah, and I thought last night was probably their best performance, maybe of the entire month. I could go to that Houston game earlier this year, so you kind of been waiting for the Pacers to get back on track like that. Good balance. I thought the bench unit was key as well. They'll go back-to-back, their last traveling back-to-back of the year. It'll be Lakers tomorrow. Reminder, that's a 7:30 tip on ESPN. Luka, LeBron, and company, they are playing, but they have lost 3 in a row and 7 of 10. And then at Washington on Thursday. So what did Rick Carlisle say? He thinks Tyrese will play on both ends of the back-to-back?
Yeah, but couldn't say for sure.
So we'll continue to monitor that here going into tomorrow night.
All right, we were talking off the air about Lindsey Vonn. She just turned 40 years old, KB. She took second at a World Cup event in Sun Valley, Idaho yesterday. She wants to go back to one more Olympics.
She saw the tweet. As soon as she saw the tweet of her ex,
she got fired up.
She said, bleep this, Kylan. Here we go.
Oh, my goodness.
Kevin getting
The
all
Tiger
kinds of drama
Woods
going
tweet
on here.
motivating Lindsey Vonn. There's no way you can spin that in any other direction.
JB, 6 years into retirement after a severe knee injury, and she just, at 40, finished second on the World Cup stage.
I mean, that's very impressive. And that's what the sport that she plays. It's not – that sport – is not one where we see a lot of longevity, and so for her to come back and do that, it was incredible. But I'm not gonna give Tiger Woods credit for that at all. But I mean, maybe she saw the tweet and was like, "Watch this, just a little bit."
Respect this privacy right here. Mackenzie Mbako in the portal down there in Bloomington. A whole lot of people have gone in the portal there. I think Miles Rice, Kanan Carlisle, Bryson Tucker, I think I'm forgetting somebody else. Trent Sisley, the 5-star freshman. Those are the remaining guys in Bloomington. We'll see how things continue to evolve there with Darren DeVries. And Mbako mentioned maybe testing the NBA waters, continue to monitor things at Indiana. But in all likelihood, it looks like Malik Renew and Mackenzie Mbako heading elsewhere.
High school basketball coming up on Saturday. It's the state championship games. All 4 of them will be over at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Had the opportunity to talk to Sherrod Wilkerson and Garrett Weininger yesterday, the 2 coaches respectively in the 4A game between Fishers and Jeffersonville. Really loved that conversation. That's just one of the 4 games. In 3A, Crispus Attucks goes up against South Bend St. Joseph. University at 2A taking on Manchester. And then in 1A, really intriguing game, Clinton Prairie taking on Orleans. Of all those games, if you just had to see one of them, JB, which one would you go see?
Probably the Class 3A game because it's going to be a lot of scoring. I'm excited about that game. If you love high school basketball and you're one of the people who is like, we need a shot clock, you won't need a shot clock for this game. They will get some shots up for sure. And I think it'll be just a high-scoring affair, a memorable one. But all these games, I mean, once you get to the state finals, I'm pretty much locked in. I'll probably be streaming it myself.
Yeah, for our Attucks faithful out there, South Bend St. Joe's, their opponent coming up in that 3A game, they have 2 siblings from the Notre Dame basketball team. One of Micah Shrewsbury's kids, Nick Shrewsbury, plays for them, and Chase Knesny as well. His brother JR actually just entered the portal yesterday, both of them on that team. Ethan Roseman, who was at Chittard last year, is on that South Bend St. Joe's team. So, yes, they are balanced. They can score. And certainly Attucks has been led by Desmond Briscoe all year long. And he just reopened his recruitment with Fran McCaffrey being let go by Iowa there. So we'll see if Ben McCollum makes a call, or maybe Ben McCollum will make an appearance Saturday night inside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse.
We'll have a whole college basketball free agency period, just like we've had the old NFL free agency period coming up.
Pretty much what it is, with the portal now open.
Man. All right, coming up in just a second, have these first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament left you wanting? That seems to be the national discussion. I'm not sure. We'll talk about it next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. a Tuesday morning.
I know people are at their 9 to 5 if they are listening right now, so
There
you
go.
keep going.
Famous line, I'll turn you from a rooster into a hen.
I saw Dolly last year at the Tennessee-Georgia game.
No kidding.
That was quite the scene when she entered the building there. That place erupted.
Was it like Elvis walking in the building, kind of?
I mean, honestly, it kind of felt like that. Kylan, you want to cue up a little Jiffy Lube stat of the day? I just saw Scotty in the
hallway?
hallway, and he goes, "You guys haven't clicked on the stat of the day yet, have you?" And I was like, "No, we haven't." This falls into the little James Boyd action. Tyrese, 24-11 in the win last night. Again, his 11th straight double-double, longest streak of consecutive games with 10 points and assists in the NBA since Russell Westbrook. At an 11-game stretch in 2019. For the Pacers, that tied the third most in Pacers history. 1 and 2 on the list, though. Both Domantas Sabonis.
Wow.
How about that?
So I was just looking
Good
it up.
instincts, JB.
16, by the way, for Domas is the longest. So when I was looking that up in the break, Jermaine O'Neal, the longest stretch I saw was 9. Might have had one, maybe a 10, but clearly nothing more than that.
Yeah, when you go back and think about it, he was a double-double machine for a couple of those years.
I remember
think he still
Sabonis
is.
had a 25-rebound triple-double
he's a walking
in
double-double,
Minnesota.
yeah.
A 25-rebound triple-double. First player to do that since, like, Shaq. And I asked him about it, and they had lost this game, and he was just like, yeah, good company. I'm like, brother, what? You just did history, and you sit up here being all humble. Again, God, if you're listening, give me that talent. I will do you right. I'll give you something to see.
JB gonna be praying for that till he's 50.
Averaging 13.9 rebounds per game.
Only?
That is great. I mean, he's led the league in rebounds each of the last 3 years.
He's also kind of Dennis Rodman-like in that you can tell he's very analytical, studies these things because he's just always in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he's this 7'1" dude or even this 6'10" guy that jumps out of the gym. Yeah, he just you could tell that he comes from some pretty good basketball genes, right?
I was going to say, imagine being as good as he is, and you're probably still the second best player in your family behind his dad, because his dad was, from everything I've read and watched.
Oh, he was fun to
incredible.
watch.
And when he got to the NBA, he was kind of past his prime. But shout out to his father as well.
Even when he was in the NBA past his prime, he was fun to watch. The deftness, the soft hands, the deft passes, the vision at 7'4".
Jokic-like, right? From Arvidas?
Yeah, very much so. That's a great description right there. Again, didn't get to the NBA till it was pretty much the end and his knees were shot. But even the years that he did spend in the NBA, they were very productive for the Portland Trailblazers. It was a lot of fun to watch. Inspired the great Craig Kilborn line on SportsCenter. He's not your Vitas. He's not my Vitas. He's our Vitas Sabonis.
That was a great line. That's one of my favorite ones.
That's one of the all-time great ones. Speaking of like ESPN, I was watching for a few minutes yesterday despite knowing better, but there was an intriguing conversation. The conversation seems to be because of this NIL era that we are in and all the favorites winning for the most part, did we get robbed of a great first couple of days of the NCAA tournament? I don't know that I feel that badly about it. Do you?
KB threw out is Cinderella dead? And I guess you can weigh in more about this.
Dead or asleep.
Or I don't know, drugs.
Maybe it's just a year. Maybe it just
right.
happened.
So that
right?
would mean she'd be asleep, and she'd wake up next year, and obviously we'll get Cinderella putting the slipper on.
So Arkansas is still not a Cinderella.
Arkansas is a Cinderella as much as Tiger Woods is a faithful human.
Kylan's like, you stop this, James.
Stop holding on.
Stop saying
it's
this.
It's not happening.
John Calipari. When I think of St. Peter's and Fairleigh Dickinson and Princeton and Lob City, I think of John Calipari.
Do you get the sense that Kevin just he's got to get over it? He's just bitter that Tiger's not going to be in contention on Sundays in majors anymore, and I don't think you've quite let go of that possibility yet.
You think? Not even in contention. He's not even going to be playing. To the point.
You're like Jim Irsay waiting on Andrew Luck.
I just think when you see these mid-major teams that get it done in March, oftentimes they're 3 and 4 and sometimes even 5-year guys, and I think now it's going to be very difficult for mid-major programs to build like that.
Absolutely, because the moment you're good, you're gone. So
even not even that good though. Like the moment you show promise, I would argue you're gone. Take this for example.
I am NBA contracts. You
James
get paid
Boyd.
now.
You are the head coach at Illinois.
Yeah.
You play Eastern Illinois in a game. You watch the Eastern Illinois freshman come off the bench, hit 2 threes, and make a couple nice defensive plays, and he averages 9 a game for the season. You might sit there with your staff in the offseason and say, hey, that kid averaged 9 a game at Eastern Illinois as a freshman. He's going to average 14 a game at Eastern Illinois next year. And then he's going to average 19 a game at Eastern Illinois if he stays. Why don't we try and get ahead of it and try and get that guy before he grows to that? I mean, you can't hide, I guess is what I'm saying. These mid-major teams can't hide their little plucky, 5-6 man group here. So
yeah, I kind of view it like an NBA contract. Like, we see some of these guys get deals, and you're like, who is that? And it's based off of what you could be in maybe the little flash you've shown, maybe a season, half a season.
I mean, hell, Sabonis and Haliburton are good examples of it with that trade.
Yes.
Both those franchises said, boy, if they come here and the Pacers said, we'll get Haliburton away from Fox and Davion Mitchell. Boom, here's the ball. Here's the keys to the city. Look what's happened. And the Kings said, let's get Sabonis away from Turner. And what's going to happen? Sabonis is one of the most productive big guys we've seen, frankly, ever in the NBA when you consider the double-double. So
we have our guy Evan weighing in the YouTube chat from Cluster Chuck, and he was saying, as a fan of mid-major, it stinks, but what can you do?
Exactly.
What can you do?
Yeah, I don't know. And, you probably would have some, like in the D2 world or in the lower levels of D1 say, well, watch, some of the mid-majors are taking it from, even the lower level. I mean, there's like a trickle-down effect. At one point last year, and I think Manchester, who's in the 2A state finals against University, they've got a kid going to Grace College this year. I forget his last name. I want to say he's like Benton or something with a B. He's been a really good big guy for them this season. And he's going to Grace College, which I believe is like with Indiana Wesleyan, kind of those schools. And Notre Dame pursued a dude from Grace last year in the transfer portal. Notre Dame, an ACC school, is pursuing a guy in NAIA. I mean, that's the reality of where some of these schools are going to try and find their respective talent. So again, when I say there's no hiding, there is no hiding whatsoever. And great for these individuals. Obviously. I mean, you're talking about the kid from Grace to, go to a Power 5 school and potentially make 6 figures. Great for them, but ramifications are, I don't think we're going to get as many Cinderellas or maybe as frequently as we have had them.
I do think that ultimately it leads to the rich getting richer and there being a bigger divide amongst the haves and have-nots in all of college basketball, because it doesn't stop at just poaching a really good player from a Division II school or a non-Power 4 school. It's also the 5th, 6th, 7th guys at, let's say, an ACC program that now want to go to a bigger Big Ten or SEC program. You start to lose depth on some of these other schools as well, JB.
Yeah, but I mean, we can talk about the problems, and they are. I don't know if they're problems or it's just different.
It's just a challenge. I don't know if it's a problem. It's just a challenge these coaches are going to have to face.
But I'm just thinking, what is the solution? And I think we're just going to have to maybe accept. It's similar to, to give it an Indiana feel. It's like when we switch from single class tournaments to class basketball, and people are still screaming about having class basketball. And we got to go back to the old way where it was just one tournament with everybody. It's just not going to happen anymore. And you have to choose to a certain degree whether you're just going to enjoy the new version of it or you're going to keep talking about how things used to be. And I get it. We're still kind of going through that metamorphosis right now with college basketball, but I'm almost like, well, you might have to tailor your expectations a bit, and that'll maybe help your viewing experience along the way.
I would say the poster child of it right now is Florida Atlantic. Butler goes on the back-to-back 2-year run. Florida Atlantic, they have the one run, and now look at where their talent is. Not just the head coach. The head coach is at Michigan, of course, but Vlad Golden is at Michigan, and Elijah Martin is at Florida, and John L. Davis is at Arkansas. I mean, you just aren't going. And that was a Florida Atlantic team that went to the Final Four.
Yeah, they're all in. And those 3 teams are in the Sweet 16. They also had Nick Boyd, a guard on that team. He was at San Diego State.
Right, he was in the playing game. Yeah, so it's just.
So it's like,
you aren't going. I made this analogy yesterday. I actually thought Eric really enjoyed the conversation that Eric Fromm, former Butler forward, had with John yesterday afternoon. You think about those Butler teams. I can only. Shelvin Mack, the amount of NIL that Kentucky and Louisville would have offered Shelvin Mack after that first year at Butler is insane because Shelvin Mack was actually a decently highly ranked recruit, and Butler still got him. And then the numbers he put up at Kentucky for Butler, obviously, and what Kentucky and Louisville would have offered, I mean, it would have been insane, really. And, Matt Howard maybe even would have felt that from an Indiana-Purdue standpoint. So, again, we played that Matt Painter audio from a transfer portal standpoint of it being open. I thought he had some really honest comments about it's open this week. So, as much as Purdue doesn't spend time in the portal, you have to take a roster inventory of your own guys. Like, there's a little bit of an awkward element of, do you go up to some guys on your roster and be like, hey, do you think you want to stay?
I think you have to.
That's the exit interview, don't you think?
Because, but you got to be doing the exit
the
interview
portal's
right
right
now.
now. Yeah.
That's the difficulty of it. Of you have got to, and I don't want to insert any names, but if you throw in the 7th man on one of these Sweet 16 teams, are you going up to that guy and saying, hey, have you thought about next year during this week? And then all of a sudden you get in foul trouble on Thursday night, and that 7th man is becoming a 30-minute guy in the biggest game of the season, and he's thinking about the portal. That is the, I think, tough nature of where you're at right now.
I think you have to have that conversation, though, just to be honest about it.
We're going to talk more about that in a second. We'll hear that Matt Painter bite if you're just joining us and missed it earlier today. It's the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. This food from the cluster truck is unbelievable. I'm just going to say that.
I'm a garbage disposal over here with it.
Man, yours is gone already.
Gone in the belly. The Dunk Fest, $29.99 for them coming up here. Days of the tournament, so beginning on Thursday. 2 pounds of chicken strips, cheese bread, chips and queso, churros.
Sounds right up my alley.
Excellent, especially if you're having people over. Perfect kid. My kids
you gotta
love
share that?
the chicken strips.
You got to share that?
Well, if you don't share it, then pray for your pipes.
Where do I go from there, Kev?
What are we? So a little severance action. This is probably the quietest night of sports we've had in quite a while.
Yeah,
last night we still had our fix with the Pacers. We obviously had plenty on the women's front. But tonight we've got nothing really.
I'm supposed to actually be like responsible and talk to people.
Boy, my wife's gonna love this. Like one-on-one conversations, and
I feel like maybe
hanging
there's
out
a
and-
taped Bachelor episode next to my wife in my future.
Oh, God bless you. Every time I hear about these, people actually watch that? Well, yeah, I shouldn't say that. They do. Probably
Sometimes you watch it because that's what your spouse is watching.
Hey, love is love, baby.
You know what I'm
Man,
saying?
if you're Tiger Woods sending out those tweets, sometimes you got to be watching it.
It's the Bachelor is the ultimate portal, isn't it? You just bring a bunch of folks in and you whittle it down, and then you
certainly
make
the
a
portal.
selection
Yes,
and move on.
It's the portal of romance.
Yeah, that's how that works. Matt Painter, as his team once again in the Sweet 16. They'll be playing Houston on Friday night / probably into Saturday morning. But either way, Matt Painter was talking about the same things we're talking about. The portal, how it might change college sports, how it works, and whether or not Purdue's going to get involved.
And again, it opened yesterday
Yeah.
for those unfamiliar. So the Sweet 16 teams, they are in the midst of it.
Yeah, and one of the Sweet 16 teams, Michigan, already lost a player in the middle of this tournament run. How about that? Scottie Pippen's kid. But in the meantime, here's what Matt Painter had to say about it.
I was the guy on the committee, whatever the heck you want to call it, subgroup, that changed the rule to get the date pushed up because it affects 16 people that are now in the Sweet 16. There's a lot of schools that are done. So our date was so far back at May 15th that now people don't realize. You say, well, May 15th is not bad. Well, that's the cutoff for the portal. And it was like May 8th or May 1st or whatever it was. And so they kept wanting to push it back because now kids were making visits in late May, early June, late June. And now it was overlapping with the next year's recruitment. And so now we push it back, but it's right. If you make the Sweet 16, here it is for you. Now we haven't spent a lot of time in the portal, and we're going to here. So it is different, but that's what a majority of the coaches wanted. They wanted it pushed back, so hopefully they can get their recruitment done before the summer starts, and they can get a little bit of a break there for 2 weeks before summer school starts and before the next year's high school recruiting. Because the last 2 weekends in high school recruiting, there'd be coaches you wouldn't see. You're like, where are you? So I'm still trying to sign players for next year. And so we're trying our best to do it. There's nothing perfect because it's not perfect the way it is. I believe it's better than the way it is, but it's still for the people that are playing in the Crown and people playing in the NIT and people playing in the NCAA and the CBI and the CIT. For those teams right there, now you got double duty, but that's part of it, man. Adjust to it. You just got to be on the phone. You got to do your job, but you also got to keep your focus. Because this is the most important stuff. You work like hell to be in this position, and now here you are. You want to play well in the Sweet 16.
To what extent you're going to be active?
All right, so that was Matt Painter talking about the window that's already open for this transfer portal, and we were talking about it earlier. Why not wait until the Tuesday or Wednesday after the tournament is complete and then just make it a 3 or 4 week process max, and you still have time to do what you need to do and be done by
It needs to be
summer.
like an April 5th to May 5th window. Yeah. It shouldn't be a disadvantage because we've advanced further in the tournament. And he mentions other teams. Butler's going to start the Crown, for example, next week.
Mm-hmm.
What's Butler's roster going to look like next year? They got a lot of old dudes that are just out of eligibility, period. But, imagine the Butler teams in recent years with how much money or with how much, roster
might only
turnover.
have you show up with 6 or 7 guys.
They've had. I do think, James, an interesting point Painter brings up there, and this is separate from the conversation we had earlier in the show of not just, yes, there is a portal cloud hanging over these 16 teams. That's hard to ignore. And but Purdue's activity in the portal, I think, is about to be interesting. Matt kind of hinted at it there. Now, again, they bring back everybody besides Caleb First. So what could that look like for Purdue? I believe the guard out of Ohio, I think, is the only one they're bringing in from a high school standpoint. So We have not talked about Purdue in a portal light really at all. And now, again, there are random little dips in it. Lance Jones was an unquestioned hit and was a huge piece for them last season. David Jenkins a little bit there. They really haven't done much. And honestly, Houston hasn't done a whole lot. LJ Cryer, their best player, yes, is a portal guy. But, compared to most teams, they haven't even done that much. So I'm a little bit more, well, obviously I care about Purdue on Friday night, but I'm a little curious, too, if and when do we start to see Purdue dip their toes a little bit into the shallow end.
I think you're going to have to at some point.
Yeah, you have to evolve at some point.
But on paper, guys, they don't have to do anything this year.
You don't, but
it doesn't hurt you if you get the guy.
Does it mean that you do bring everybody back? Just because everybody can come back doesn't mean you bring everybody back.
Right, for sure.
That's a tough conversation you have to have at some point.
So let me ask you guys this. Is some of the answer to this long-term for coaches and fans and everybody else, and I would think even for some players, are we approaching the time where everybody has an individual contract? Like, I am here, we're going to give you this much money, but if we do that, you're going to be here for 2 years.
I've thought about that because it seems like you can just leave after 1 year,
and now you're being compensated.
Yeah, I don't hate that idea. It definitely gives you more of a level of accountability and responsibility to whatever program you commit to if it's a 2-year contract. But at that point, it's not college anymore, is it? It's not college now. I don't know. It's
we're just hashing up
every time
terms
I think, like,
now.
When you threw that out there in my mind, I was like, "There's no way." But then I'm also thinking, like, 5 years ago, I would have said, "There's no way we've seen what we're seeing now." So I can't hate the idea, but I do kind of like the premise of it because it forces you to commit to something, and
on both sides,
and you are being right, and both sides agree to it. So that's an interesting proposition for sure. Because, even then, though, coaches sign 6-year deals. What if you get bought out? You sign a 2-year deal with the school, NIL, whatever, but Duke comes along and says, you know what? We'll just buy you out and you can come over here. So I don't think it ever really ends. There's no solution to it. You can't just, tell a guy you have to stay here no matter what. So
I'm just saying, if I'm going to pay a guy a good amount of money, I don't think it's out of the question to ask.
Keep me.
By the way, one thing to keep an eye on for tonight from a viewing standpoint, I think the Colts are going to have their first episode of the Behind the Colts series. I think a lot of people got used to the With the Next Pick series. This is kind of their new version of that. Again, Behind the Colts. They've done it on Pittman's Farm and Dwight Freeney, the Hall of Fame. So free agency-centric episode coming up tonight. I know they'll have a couple draft episodes, but I always enjoy any behind-the-scenes content. I know fans really enjoy it as well. So it sounds like that will be coming out tonight.
I think they do a pretty good job for having it kind of be in-house. I still think it's interesting and worth watching.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah, I know a lot of their crew, and I really appreciate them for sure.
Yeah, no, they do a fantastic job, and it's always, as you say, interesting to see that. All right, Jay comes your way at noon, JMB at 3. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 7.